Chapter 49. On the mountain behind the Jinyang district, a black puppy stood at the top of the mountain while looking at the moon in the sky with its tail drooping. It growled softly with a human-like expression on its face. Ha ha ha! I, the Patriarch of Hell, have finally escaped. He, the Patriarch of Hell, was a tribulation transcendence cultivator in the cultivation world. Which girl wouldn't tremble at the mention of his name? In the end, when he was transcending his tribulation and ascending, in order to bring his 3,000 beautiful wives and concubines along with him, he simply cultivated the 3,000 imperial women Tao. On the day of the tribulation ascension, he transformed into 3,000 people in front of all the almighties in the cultivation world and had a live show with his 3,000 beautiful wives and concubines. Eventually, the 99 heavenly tribulations were triggered. However, the Patriarch did not seem to last long. He almost died after enduring 3 heavenly tribulations. The black puppy growled again. God, forget that you made me fail the tribulation ascension, but you gave me the chance to become an itinerant immortal. In the end, your 3 lightning strikes almost destroyed my soul. Only a sliver of my remnant managed to escape, and it was dragged into the space crack. Poor my 3,000 beautiful wives and concubines. All right, I'll take it even if that's the case. But you should have given me a good cauldron to take over. But you made me come to this rubbish world that lacks spiritual energy. I've been searching for people in this world with all my spiritual energy. I've been searching for 3 days, but I did not see a mortal with a spiritual root. Just when I attached myself to a dog, a car came crashing over. I feel so wronged. The black puppy was in tears. However, none of that mattered. What mattered was that he, the Patriarch of Hell, was called Cutie. Your whole family is Cutie. Do I not care about my reputation anymore? How am I going to pick up girls if people find out about this when I return to the cultivation world? If the Patriarch had not found out that Yi Chen was a cultivator when he was treating his injuries, he would have flipped out. Although that brat's cultivation base isn't high, he's the first cultivator I've seen in this *TTY world. Fortunately, I'm smart enough to sneak out while they're asleep. Otherwise, if that kid were to discover my identity one day, it wouldn't be good if I were to be stewed into a pot of dog meat to nourish my body. Humph! Although I'm not a good person, I know how to repay favors. Since you saved my life, I'll let you off the hook for calling me Buttface, Su Kei said coldly. At the thought of this, the black puppy was about to leave. However, when it turned around, it suddenly realized that someone had appeared behind it. It was Yi Chen. Yi Chen looked at it wryly and said, "Cutie, where are you going?" The black puppy's fur immediately stood up, and it immediately wagged its tail like a pug, trying to curry favor. *CK, I don't care about my face anymore. Should I call you Patriarch Yellow Spring? Or Buttface? A smirk of mockery appeared at the corner of Yi Chen's lips. He had been tailing the man, so he had heard the man's roar clearly. Unfortunately, coincidentally, he understood the language of beasts. The black puppy took a few steps back with a whoosh, its heart filled with horror. How did this brat understand me? He even discovered my identity. A ferocious gleam appeared in the black puppy's eyes as it thought to this point. It lifted its front legs and placed them on its waist. It stood like a human and spoke while shaking its legs. "You're quite capable, little cultivator." "That's right. I'm the famous Patriarch Yellow Spring in the cultivation world. I'm a tribulation almighty. If you know what's good for you, kneel before me now. I might let you go if I'm in a good mood." It thought Yi Chen would definitely fall to the ground in fear after hearing the words Tribulation Almighty. After all, Tribulation Almighty was the pinnacle powerhouse in the cultivation world. They were just one step away from ascending. However, there was no expression on Yi Chen's face. The Patriarch Yellow Spring was pissed, so he added, "Did you hear me? I'm a Tribulation Almighty. Tribulation Almighty." So, Yi Chen said expressionlessly, "Do you know what Tribulation Almighty means?" You're not even at the foundation establishment stage yet. I can easily destroy your soul with a fart. Patriarch Yellow Spring was furious. Damn it, can't you give me some face? Yi-Chen said while smiling, why don't you try farting? The Patriarch Yellow Spring was speechless. Subsequently, it roared and its body grew a few times bigger. It was as strong as a calf and charged at Yi-Chen at high speed. Damn it, is the Patriarch Yellow Spring shameless? Tribulation Almighty, am I right? Yi-Chen chuckled softly and stretched his arm to grab it. He grabbed its neck directly and lifted it up. Please spare me, Master. Oh no, Cutie, no, my mistake. The Patriarch Yellow Spring begged directly. Cutie is willing to surrender. Cutie is willing to surrender. I don't want to lose face this time. Yi-Chen shook his head and said, I don't need you to surrender. I just want to eat dog meat. I'll kill you, pluck your fur, open your stomach and rinse it in boiling water. Then I'll cut you into meat slices. Pour some oil into the wok and pour the meat slices into it. Then I'll sprinkle ginger, onion, and garlic on it and keep stir-frying. Gulp! Patriarch Yellow Spring swallowed his saliva. He was a little hungry after hearing Su-Kei's words. He licked his face hastily and said, Master, my flesh is not delicious. I can be used for many purposes, such as guarding the house, closing the door, and letting the dogs out. Also, your daughter has taken me as her pet. If you eat me, she will be unhappy. Yi-Chen nodded subconsciously. That seemed to make sense. Hand over the soul blood, Yi-Chen said calmly. The Patriarch Yellow Spring hesitated and said, can you agree to 2 of my conditions? I suddenly want to eat dog meat again. No, I'll hand it over right away. The Patriarch Yellow Spring shuddered. He opened his mouth and spat. A red object that looked like an earthworm landed in Yi-Chen's hand. Yi-Chen then nodded in satisfaction. The Patriarch Yellow Spring looked like he wanted to cry. I have a small request. Can you find me a good cauldron for me to possess in the future? It did not want to be a dog anymore. He was threatened with eating dog meat at every turn. Yi-Chen nodded, sure. The Patriarch Yellow Spring hesitated for a moment. He rubbed his claws and smiled wretchedly. Can you find me another woman? If that's not possible, bring me to the brothel in this lousy world first. I've been holding back for a long time. It feels terrible without a woman. Yi-Chen looked at its body and the key parts that were covered by its tail. He could not help but ask, Are you looking for a woman? Chapter 50. Cultivating to be an immortal was just to pick up girls? Yi-Chen's eyes froze. He was completely defeated by that reason. He asked coldly, Are you really a tribulation stage cultivator? Anyone who could cultivate to this stage would have a firm Tao heart and a pure heart. If they had any distracting thoughts, it would be difficult for them to continue. They might even go berserk. Master, you have no idea. Before I stepped onto the path of cultivation, I was a tortoise, a pimp in some brothel. The Patriarch of Yellow Spring wagged his tail awkwardly. I've seen all kinds of erotic scenes in brothels. Then I slowly figured out some great ways in this regard and created the 3,000 Imperial Women Tao. As long as I have sex with women, my cultivation base will increase. That's right. Although he said that the Patriarch was furious, you know the most embarrassing thing about me. Just you wait. When I recover my cultivation base, I want you to be my follower. Plucking? Yi-Chen frowned slightly. Plucking was also known as plucking yin to nourish yang or plucking yang to nourish yin. It was an evil technique to nourish oneself by absorbing other people's cultivation base and blood essence. Patriarch Yellow Spring seemed to have guessed what was on Buttface's mind, and he hurriedly explained, Master, I'm not plucking. My cultivation method won't cause any harm to the women. Instead, it will strengthen their physiques. This is also the reason why, when I ascended, I wanted to ascend with 3,000 beauties. 3,000 beauties in his harem? Yi-Chen's expression turned grim. He stopped asking and extended his arm to point between the patriarch's brows. The patriarch of hell panicked. He thought that Yi Qin was going to kill him and make him into a hot pot. Just when he was going to resist, Yi Chen's voice came into his head. Don't resist. This is the memory about Earth. The patriarch was secretly shocked. This brat has not even reached foundation building, but he knows the mind transfer method and divine consciousness voice transmission. *T. Why am I so unlucky to actually encounter such a monster? When will I be able to turn the situation around like a peasant and sing a song? Not long after, the patriarch felt a lot of memories appear in his mind. They were all related to Earth, such as cars, televisions, airplanes, tanks, cannons, the Republic, blacks and whites, and so on. Elder Hell immediately exclaimed, "Good heavens! The missiles in your world can actually locate the target, just like the flying swords of the cultivators. Also, the so-called atomic bomb is almost as powerful as a punch from a soul transformation stage cultivator, isn't it?" "I've never tried." Yi Qin shook his head. Patriarch Yellow Spring laughed and said, "Well, Master, I learned from my memory that your country is at odds with a country called the Fusang Nation. Why don't I go to the Fusang Nation after I recover my cultivation? I will kill all the men there and take the women into my harem. Also, brothels are actually called nightclubs or bathing centers in this world of yours. Prostitutes are also divided into so many levels. Young models, coquettish female celebrities. No, I have to experience what it's like to be a young model. To quote a popular phrase on the internet in your world, the winner will be a young model, and the loser will be forced to work in the sea." Patriarch Yellow Spring laughed lecherously while spittle flew everywhere. It was as if he had discovered a new continent. "Enough!" Yi Qin frowned when he heard that and interrupted. "The reason why I didn't kill you is that I want you to work for me. From now on, you must protect my daughter 24 hours a day. If she loses even a strand of hair, I'll break your bones, eat your flesh, extract your soul, and refine your soul." At the same time, a chilling killing intent exploded from his body. Yes. I'll definitely protect the little master." The Patriarch Yellow Spring shuddered and nodded continuously. "Good heavens! This brat's cultivation base isn't high, but why is his killing intent stronger than mine? He's like a devil. Could it be that he came from another cultivation world, just like me? He was lucky enough to possess this body, and now he has a wife and daughter?" Although that was what he was thinking, the Patriarch Yellow Spring dared not show it at all. He wagged his tail and said miserably, "Master, I'm only on beginner stage spirit assembly now. I can only perform tricks like illusions. You must find me a woman so that I can recover my cultivation base. Otherwise, someone will kill me with a single shot. Follow me." Yi Qin scoffed and went down the mountain with it. He hailed a cab by the side of the road and headed straight to the biggest nightclub in Lin City. They were stopped by the security guards when they arrived at the entrance. The reason being, Yi Qin had a dog with him. Yi Qin could only give Lin Tai a call. Lin Tai arrived soon and welcomed the man and the dog in. The patriarch looked around the nightclub while wagging his tail. Lin Tai said respectfully after bringing the man and dog to a private room, "My lord, find me a woman." Yi Qin said with an unnatural expression. Lin Tai was stunned. "Find you a woman?" He remembered that Yi Qin had a daughter. Yi Qin just realized that he had said something inappropriate. He looked at the Patriarch Yellow Spring, who was squatting under his feet immediately, and said, "Find it a woman." Lin Tai looked at the black puppy under his feet and was stunned again. He asked in disbelief, "A woman or a female dog?" As soon as he finished speaking, the black puppy began barking at him immediately. "CKU, find me a female dog? Do you believe that I'll bite you to death? All right, go now. Also, don't let anyone in without my order." Yi Qin waved and said. He did not bother to explain. Lin Tai could only stop asking. He suppressed his doubts and left. As soon as he left, the Patriarch Yellow Spring said immediately, "Master, Cutie forgot to tell you to get your little brother to find a woman with a perky butt and a big chest. Shut up. I'm curious about how you're going to deal with the woman after she comes." Yi Chen resisted the urge to slap him to death. Only he would bring a dog to a spa. However, it was unfortunate that he had encountered a weirdo like the Patriarch Yellow Spring. The Patriarch Yellow Spring smiled mysteriously. "You don't have to worry about that. I have my ways." Yi Chen shook his head and walked out of the room. He stood at the corridor across and watched quietly. Soon, he saw a lady who was dressed extremely flirtatiously knock on the door and walk in. Then the door was closed. Yi Chen controlled his divine consciousness to go in and take a look by instinct. He realized that there was a barrier around the room that could stop his divine consciousness from invading. Clearly, it was set up by the Patriarch Yellow Spring. The barrier was not powerful, so it was easy to break it. Yi Chen hesitated for a while and decided not to break it. He was mainly worried that he would see something disgusting later. He began looking around the nightclub after withdrawing his divine consciousness. The nightclub was huge, and there were many people. Under the dim yellow light, the faces were distorted, crazy, and rotten. Chapter 51. It was a middle-aged man with a band-aid on his face. The man limped as he was being pushed around in the crowd. He would even bend down to apologize to people from time to time. Yi Chen walked down immediately after seeing the man's face. He called out by instinct, "Tatiana?" The middle-aged man turned his head to look at Yi Chen immediately. His body shook slightly as he turned around and ran to the entrance of the nightclub without saying anything. Yi Chen chased after him immediately and grabbed him by the side of the road. He said coldly, "Yang Tian, why did you run when you saw me?" The middle-aged man's body froze. He only turned around after a few seconds of silence, revealing a dispirited face. He looked bitter. "Xiao Yezi, I'm no longer the Yang Tian I used to be. Why do you still remember me? Why?" At such a close distance, Yi Chen realized that he had changed a lot. He looked dispirited, his hair was messy, and he had stubble. There were a couple of band-aids on his face, and a part of his brow bone was broken, as if it had been broken. He looked lethargic. The man before him was called Yang Tian. He used to be Yi Chen's classmate and best friend in university. Back then, the Young and Dangerous series was very popular. Yang Tian liked the character Tatiana very much, so he gave himself that name. The duo stayed in the same hostel during their university days. They talked about everything. One was rational and weak, while the other was straightforward and hot-tempered. Yi Chen remembered clearly that he and Yang Tian had gone to the internet cafe to play dungeons when he was in his third year of university. He had gotten into a conflict with the gangsters at the cafe and was beaten up. The cafe owner did not even dare to call the police due to the gangsters' background, let alone stop them. Yang Tian, who had just returned from the washroom, saw that Yi Chen was being bullied. He picked up a fruit knife from the counter at the internet cafe and charged into the crowd without saying anything. He injured 3 people directly and even asked Yi Chen to leave first while he stayed behind. Yang Tian was taken revenge after that. One of his fingers was chopped off to save his life. Yi Chen felt guilty for a long time because of that. The duo went their separate ways after graduation. Although that was the case, they kept in touch. They only lost contact when Yi Chen was drowned in the river. It had been so many years since then. Never had he thought that he would bump into Yang Tian here. Furthermore, Yang Tian ran away as soon as he saw him. Yi Chen took a deep breath in as he thought to this point. He looked at him and said word by word, "Because you're my brother." Yang Tian's voice came to a halt as he looked at Yi Chen blankly. His eyes turned red instantly, and the hunk burst into tears on the spot. "Little Yi Zi, I don't deserve to be your brother. I really don't deserve it." Yi Chen patted his shoulder. "You're wrong. No matter what happens, you'll always be my brother. Now, tell me, what exactly have you been through all these years?" How did it become like this? He almost roared the words out. Yang Tian's current state was too disappointing. He, who once claimed to be the most handsome man in the class, had now become a destitute uncle. He, who once had a finger chopped off because of him, was still talking cheerfully and wittily. Now he was crying like a child. Yang Tian squatted on the ground and covered his face with his hands as he cried. Yi Chen punched him in the face out of anger. He said in disappointment, "Useless coward. What else can you do apart from crying? Come on, coward. Hit me. Can't you be a man?" Yang Tian rolled on the ground directly from the punch. There was blood at the corner of his lips. As if he was triggered, he suddenly shrieked hysterically. He got up and threw a punch at Yi Chen while clenching his fists. Bang! Yi Chen did not dodge. Instead, he chose to take the punch head-on. After Yang Tian was done with the punch, he rolled on the ground with another punch. He charged forward and punched Yang Tian's face again and again. He did not use any of his cultivation base. Not long after, the two of them were fighting on the ground. An uncle who was passing by took out his phone to call the police when he saw that. Yang Tian, who was pinned under Yi Chen, screamed ferociously, "Get lost!" "Young fellas, can't you guys talk things out? Do you really have to fight?" The uncle sighed and persuaded them out of kindness. "Get lost. Which one of your eyes saw us fighting? We're catching up. Shut up if you don't know anything. I'll beat you to death if you don't get lost." Yang Tian could not stop cursing as he wiped the blood off his face. The corner of the uncle's mouth twitched. Was this how they reminisced? He was bleeding. However, he seemed to be frightened and ran away. As he ran, he called the police. "Hello, is this a demon? There are 2 young people here." Hearing this, Yi Chen and Yang Tian looked at each other and subsequently laughed out loud. The 2 of them were fighting to the death earlier, but they were sitting on the ground with their arms around each other's shoulders in the blink of an eye. Yang Tian took out a pack of cigarettes and passed one to Yi Chen. As the smoke lingered, his voice was extremely hoarse. "Xiao Yezi, thank you for remembering your brother. Don't give me that. Tell me, what did you suffer? Where's sister-in-law?" Yi Chen took a puff of his cigarette and asked while looking at him. Yang Tian, who claimed to be a playboy, got married as soon as he graduated. Yi Chen even attended his wedding back then. The bride was a graceful and elegant lady. Yang Tian's face stiffened. He lowered his head and said, expressionlessly, "Dead." "Who killed her?" Yi Chen's hand that was holding the cigarette shook slightly as he asked while squinting. He did not even ask how she died. If Yang Tian's wife had died of natural causes, he would not be so dispirited. Yang Tian clenched his fists tightly and turned his face away. "She died in a car accident." "A car accident?" Yi Chen chuckled. "Do you dare to look at me and say that? Do you dare to say that again in front of sister-in-law's memorial tablet?" Yang Tian held his head with both of his hands and said in pain, "Xiao Yezi, can you not force me? Really, don't force me." His reaction confirmed Yi Chen's speculation. He could not help but scoff. "If you still have a little bit of courage in you, tell me the truth. Even if the sky falls, I'll be here for you." Yang Tian got up and glared at him in rage. His eyes were bloodshot. "Why? Why do you have to force me? Knowing the truth will only bring you disaster. I'm already miserable enough. I don't want to drag you down. We can't afford to offend that person. Ha." Yi Chen tossed the cigarette, but away. He got up and looked into Yang Tian's eyes coldly. He grinned. "There's no one in this world that I, Yi Chen, can't afford to offend. If you want to continue being dispirited and living in pain, then stop talking. Of course, that's the end of our relationship." Yi Chen turned around and left as soon as he was done speaking. Yi Chen turned around and left without hesitation. He only heard Yang Tian's voice after walking for over 10 meters. Chapter 52. Yi Chen turned around and walked over. He asked while looking at him, "Was it the Ding family who killed your wife?" "To be exact, it was Ding Lei from the Ding family." Yang Tian forced a smile and lit a cigarette. He began talking about his experiences throughout the years. It turned out that Yang Tian worked in a small company after graduating from university. He was promoted to a management position in less than 2 years. He had some money and was unrestrained, so he often visited places like nightclubs. There was once when he saw a female singer being bullied by a drunk customer in a bar. At that time, no one dared to stop her. Yang Tian hated incidents where women were bullied the most. In addition to the fact that he was a little drunk, he rushed up the stage and hit the other party. He then ran away with the female singer in public. Due to the hero saving the damsel in distress, they got married less than 3 months after they fell in love. Along with the sweetness, the nightmare came naturally. Yang Tian found out that the person he beat up at the bar was the second young master of the Ding family, Ding Lei. To avoid revenge, Yang Tian ran around with his wife. After escaping for 3 years, the couple thought that they were safe. Moreover, they had a child, so they could only live incognito. In the end, when Yang Tian was on his way home from work, he saw himself being run over by a truck. The truck then ran over his wife's corpse several times. Ding Lei even bragged about it to him. Yang Tian wanted to kill him by instinct, but he could not bear to let his son go. All he could do was live in humiliation. Fate always played tricks on people. Yang Tian's son was diagnosed with congenital heart disease when he was just 3 years old. The only way to cure him was to spend 800,000 yuan on a heart transplant. Naturally, Yang Tian could not get help from anyone. However, Ding Lei came to him and asked Yang Tian to be a fighter at his underground boxing ring. He promised to pay 10,000 yuan for each fight. Naturally, he wanted to torture Yang Tian. Yang Tian knew that, but he agreed to be a fighter at Ding Lei's underground boxing ring for the sake of his son's surgery fee. Ding Lei's so-called fighter was actually a sparring partner. Yang Tian could not fight back and had to let his opponent hit him. Yang Tian had been on the brink of death many times, holding on with his will. Fortunately, he had earned 200,000 yuan. Together with his savings, he was left with over 300,000 yuan. He would be able to get 800,000 yuan for his son's surgery. After saying this, Yang Tian's whole body trembled. He took a deep breath of his cigarette and laughed at himself. Little Yezi, do you think someone like me, who has given up my dignity and acknowledged the enemy as my father, is worthy of being your brother? Is this the reason why your leg is crippled and your brow bone is broken? Yi Qin took a deep breath in as the killing intent within him grew. The Ding clan was very good. Yang Tian nodded painfully. How could I not know that Ding Lei was torturing me? But what could I do? Are you going to give up your son's life for that so-called dignity? 800,000 yuan. Have you ever thought of borrowing it from someone else? Yi Qin frowned. Yang Tian chuckled. Borrow? Borrow from whom? Don't you know that money can turn brothers against each other these days? In the past, the relatives who talked about family all hid far away when they saw me, as if they had seen a ghost. You don't have to be a boxer in the future. I can cure your nephew's illness. There's no need for a heart transplant at all. Yi Chen patted his shoulder and enunciated word for word while looking at him. As for the underground boxing arena that you mentioned, it's the Ding family's property, and it'll only be held 3 days later, right? All right, 3 days later, let me take your place and fight the last match. Let me, your brother, help you regain your dignity and use your blood as a sacrifice to sister-in-law's soul in heaven. His voice fell. Yang Tian stared blankly at Yi Qin. Only now did he realize that this brother of his had changed. He had become somewhat unfamiliar. There was an indescribable aura around him, but he couldn't put his finger on it. I know it's hard for you to believe me, but what I want to say is that I've had some fortuitous encounters over the years. I've learned some martial arts and medical skills from an otherworldly master. Yi Qin smiled when he met Yang Tian's gaze. Subsequently, he lifted his foot and stomped softly. A 5-inch, deep footprint appeared on the ground. Yang Tian sucked in a breath of cold air, his face filled with shock. Brother, you really have a way to cure my son's illness? He stomped on the ground with one foot. Was that something that a human could do? Seeing that he still didn't believe him, Yi Chen pressed his hand on his lame left leg and inserted spiritual power into it. Yang Tian felt a warm and numb sensation in his left leg. Subsequently, it was no longer painful. Over 10 minutes later, Yi Chen retracted his hand and said while smiling, "All right, why don't you try walking 2 steps now?" Yang Tian glanced at him and took 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. Eventually, he laughed out loud. "My leg is healed. Xiao Yezi, you're amazing. You finally believe me now, don't you?" Yi Chen said while smiling. Yang Tian grabbed him and was extremely excited. "Of course I believe you. Why wouldn't I believe you? Even if you tell me that you're the reincarnation of a god, I'll believe you. Let's go to my house. Wait, I have to pick someone up. No, I have to pick up a dog." Yi Chen shook his head and returned to the nightclub with Yang Tian. The door to the room where the Patriarch of Hell was had happened to be opened. A seductively dressed lady walked out with a satisfied look on her face. She was even staggering, and her legs seemed to be a little weak. The lady leaned into Yi Chen's embrace as soon as she saw him. She said with seductive eyes, "Boss, your twin brother is so powerful. Remember to pay me more." Twin brother? Yi Chen frowned and walked into the room after sending her away. He saw the black dog, the Patriarch of Hell, lying on the couch with both of his furry legs on the coffee table. He had a cigarette in his mouth while shaking his ears in satisfaction. Yang Tian, who was following behind him, exclaimed by instinct when he saw that, "Xiao Yezi, this dog is yours? Damn it, look at his movements and expression. He looks like a human. Is he a demon?" The Patriarch of Hell glanced at him in disdain. "Haha, what a stupid mortal. Since I'm in a good mood, I won't argue with you. Well trained, well trained." That was the only explanation Yi Chen could give. At the same time, he sent a voice transmission to the Patriarch through divine consciousness. "Are you done?" The Patriarch of Hell did not care about Yang Tian's surprised gaze at all. He shook his ears and said in a showy manner, "Master, it's fine even if you came an hour later. I can still fight. How much of your cultivation base has you recovered?" Yi Chen asked curiously. As the Patriarch of Hell was in a dog's body, it was difficult to see through his cultivation base. The Patriarch of Hell rolled his eyes and said while smiling, "If you give me another 300 young models, I should be able to break through to intermediate stage spirit assembly." In reality, the Patriarch was a little guilty. The reason being his primordial spirit had actually left his body when he was cultivating with the lady earlier. The Patriarch thought that he was ugly, so he simply transformed into Yi Chen. Subsequently, Chapter 53. Yang Tian's house was very simple. It was a house that was less than 50 square meters. Not only was the house dim, but it also seemed rather humid. As soon as Yi Chen entered, he smelled a pungent smell. One could tell how unhappy Yang Tian had been in the past few years. His son was a dignified little boy who had just turned 3 years old. He was 1 year younger than Meng Meng, and his facial features were 50% to 60% similar to Yang Tian. However, the little guy's face was a little sallow, and there was a hint of darkness between his brows. His body was also relatively thin. Clearly, it was because of long-term malnutrition. After the few of them entered, the little guy was sleeping. After Yang Tian woke him up, the little guy rubbed his sleepy eyes and hid behind Yang Tian. He looked at Yi Chen and the dog under his feet timidly. How, this is Daddy's brother. Call him Uncle Yi." Yang Tian patted the little guy's head lovingly. The little guy then called out in his baby voice, "Uncle Yi." Uncle Yi made Yi Chen over the moon. He pinched the little guy's cheeks and said while smiling, "Why don't I let Yang Hao be my godson?" "That's great. We'll be even closer." Yang Tian smiled immediately. He lowered his head to look at the little guy and said, How, call me godfather." The little guy glanced at Yi Chen weakly and then looked at the patriarch of hell under his feet. He said timidly, "Call me godfather. Can I pet the puppy?" The patriarch of hell was speechless. Who did the patriarch offend? Yi Chen said in between tears and laughter, "Sure. Godfather." The little fellow cried out and ran over to touch the patriarch of Yellow Spring. The patriarch of Yellow Spring subconsciously wanted to bite him, but after sensing a certain someone's cold gaze, he shivered and did not dare to resist. He just kept drawing small circles in his heart. "Xiao Yezi, just you wait. When the patriarch's cultivation base recovers, I'll turn you into a dog too. I'll give you a name, Cutie. I'll let the kids pet you." Yi Chen and Yang Tian could not help but laugh when they saw the little guy scratching the patriarch's fur continuously. Yi Chen only got the little guy to lie down after he was tired of playing. He placed his arm on the patriarch's chest and sensed it quietly. Yang Tian stood at the side, feeling uneasy. "Brother, how is it?" In fact, he didn't have much hope in his heart. "No problem." Yi Chen shook his head and transferred the spiritual power in his body into the little girl's heart. He could not stop modifying its abnormal blood vessel structure. Half an hour later, Yi Chen wiped the sweat on his forehead and lifted his head to look at Yang Tian, who was next to him. "Fortunately, I didn't disappoint you." All right. Yang Tian was stunned, thinking that he had misheard. In less than half an hour, without surgery or medication, her son's heart disease was cured just like that? Yi Chen knew that it was hard for him to believe, so he said with a smile, "If you're worried, you can take my godson to the hospital for a checkup later." It was really not difficult to treat a heart disease. If he had the cultivation of the foundation establishment stage, not to mention treating a disease, it would not be a problem for him to even replace little Yang Hao's heart. However, there was a discovery that caught his attention. Little Yang Hao's spirit root aptitude was not bad. It was actually a rare thunder spirit root in the cultivation world. He could practice thunder techniques and control the power of thunder. However, since the little girl was still young, and Yi Chen did not want to expose his identity too early, he could only write it down calmly. Yang Tian nodded doubtfully. He secretly made up his mind to take his son to the hospital for a checkup later. Subsequently, he began to cook in the kitchen. He had to make Yi Chen stay for dinner no matter what. Yi Chen could only agree to it and look around the room. The patriarch of hell, who was next to him, said through voice transmission through divine consciousness, "Master, this little guy has a mutated thunder spirit root. Why don't you let me take him as a human cauldron? That way, not only will Cutie be your little brother, but he'll also be your godson. We'll be even closer. Do you want to die?" Yi Chen glared at him coldly with killing intent in his eyes. "You're not allowed to touch my people, especially my daughter. As for the human cauldron, I'll naturally think of a way for you. If you're obedient, it's not impossible for me to give you a golden immortal stage in the future." The patriarch of hell gulped and dared not speak anymore. Yi Chen could not be bothered with him. His gaze landed on the memorial tablet in the corner. There was a photo on it. There was a delicate and pretty lady in the photo. However, she kept staring at little Yang Hao unintentionally. When Yi Chen looked over, the lady in the photo immediately returned to normal. The patriarch of hell noticed that too. He could not help but say through voice transmission, "Master, this lady's resentment is quite heavy after her death. If you died a horrible death, I think you'd have become a malicious spirit." Yi Chen shook his head. At that moment, Yang Tian walked out with the dishes. He said while smiling, "That's sister-in-law, Xiao Qiong. You guys should have met her before." Yi Chen did not answer his question. "Have you seen sister-in-law after she died? I've never dreamt about it, but I always feel like she's by my side." Yang Tian did not notice the hidden meaning in Yi Chen's words at all. He glanced at little Yang Hao next to him by instinct and said with slight guilt, Hao, on the other hand, said that he often sees his mother. "Daddy, I really see Mommy often," Yang Hao replied in his childish voice. Yang Hao replied in a childish voice, Yang Tian patted his head, thinking that his son missed his mother too much. Yi Qin secretly nodded. The patriarch of hell was right. It was resentment and obsession. It was an obsession born from reluctance to part with her husband and son. Subsequently, Yi Chen picked up the incense stick in front of the memorial tablet. After lighting it up, he bowed to the lady in the photo. At the same time, he said to himself, "Sister-in-law, I know you can't bear to part with your son and husband, but ashes to ashes. If you force them to stay, you'll only hurt them. I, Yi Qin, promise you that blood must be paid with blood." However, nobody knew that, as Yi Qin bowed, the sky outside the house darkened. Outside the house, the originally sunny sky suddenly darkened. In an instant, dark clouds covered the sky, lightning flashed, and thunder rumbled. It was as if a storm was coming. The patriarch of hell was shocked. Holy sh*T, who exactly is this brat? He can trigger such a huge phenomenon just by paying his respects to a mortal. Even if I'm at my peak, it won't be so terrifying. Since ancient times, only mortals had been kneeling to heaven and earth. It was just like how a son would kneel to his father and a minister would kneel to the emperor. It was the heavenly Tao. If it was reversed, it would trigger a phenomenon. The more noble a person was, the bigger the phenomenon would be. At the same time, a black energy that could not be seen with the naked eye floated out of the portrait slowly. The black energy slowly consolidated into the image of a lady. The lady knelt to Yi Qin respectfully. She was a spirit, so she could see things that living people could not. For example, the dense emperor aura on Yi Qin's body and the heavenly emperor avatar behind him, who was wearing a heavenly emperor crown, a 9-clawed dragon yellow robe, and purple cloud boots. Little Yang Hao, who was playing, rubbed his eyes and pointed at the lady in the air. "Daddy, I see Mommy again." "Don't scare your godfather." Yang Tian glared at him angrily. The lady in the air looked at Yang Tian and his son reluctantly. Subsequently, she turned into a black energy and slowly dispersed. "Forget it, I'll help you again." Yi Qin sighed and flicked his finger at the black energy that was about to disperse. A spiritual energy seed shot into the black energy and dispersed. It was a spiritual energy seed that could protect Yang Tian's wife on her way to hell. She would not be harassed by the servants of death and the dead. It was also a locator. After she was reincarnated, the three of them might have a chance to reunite when the opportunity came. Chapter 54. Yi Qin secretly gave the Yang father and son some money and returned home with the patriarch of hell. He walked into the room and carried Meng Meng in his embrace. He then merged the soul blood that the patriarch of hell gave him into his daughter's body. The patriarch of hell, who was lying on the ground, hung his head when he saw that. He wanted to cry, but no tears came out. As soon as the soul blood merged, it meant that the little girl, Meng Meng, would be his master from now on. The patriarch would have to listen to her with just a thought. If Meng Meng was in danger, the patriarch would do his best to protect her. Otherwise, his soul would be destroyed as soon as his master died. Yi Chen's expression softened as if he sensed the patriarch's reluctance. He said, "As long as you protect Meng Meng, not only will I get you a great cauldron, but I'll also set you free after 10 years. You'll really set me free after 10 years? The patriarch of hell's eyes could not stop flickering. He seemed to be in disbelief. The patriarch could accept it if it was really 10 years. After all, to cultivators, 100 years would pass in the blink of an eye, let alone 10 years. Yi Qin nodded and said, "Of course." "All right, I'll believe you this time." The patriarch of hell clenched his teeth and accepted his fate eventually. When the little girl woke up, the patriarch of hell, who was standing aside, wagged his tail to please her. In reality, he felt bitter. There were even tears of disappointment flowing down her cheeks. The little girl looked at the patriarch while biting her finger. "Cutie, why are you crying? Are you hungry?" The little girl grabbed a handful of dog food and placed it before the patriarch. She said while giggling, "I'll feed you." The little girl was connected to the patriarch now, so she could sense all of his emotions. The patriarch of hell cried even harder. I don't eat dog food. You don't eat dog food? The little girl sensed what the patriarch was thinking. She covered her mouth in surprise. You want to drink red wine, king crab, and Australian lobster? The patriarch of hell could not stop nodding. The little girl was troubled and said weakly, But these are expensive. I've never eaten them before. When Wulan, who was outside, saw this scene, she immediately said angrily, This silly girl. What are you mumbling about? If dogs don't eat dog food, why would they eat king crab? But Face, you have to be obedient and eat the dog food. Dog food is also very expensive. The little girl reached out and patted his head, comforting him. Patriarch Yellow Spring had no choice but to accept his fate and eat a mouthful of the dog food in the little fellow's hand. After swallowing it with tears in his eyes, he was stunned at first, and then he realized that something was wrong. So dog food tasted so good the old ancestor couldn't help but take another bite. The more he ate, the more delicious it was. At the same time, he felt conflicted. On one hand, he considered that dog food was for dogs to eat, and he was a tribulation transcendent stage cultivator. So how could he eat dog food? On the other hand, the thing he possessed was a dog, and even its stomach was a dog's stomach. As long as it was a dog, it would not be able to resist the temptation of dog food. Reason told the patriarch that he shouldn't eat dog food, and his body instincts told him that dog food was delicious. In a short while, the dog food in Mingming's hand was gone. Fortunately, it was dog food this time. The patriarch licked his lips as if he had not had enough. An extremely terrifying thought flashed through his mind. If I see a pile of sh*T by the road next time, should I go and have a bite too? After all, a dog can't stop itself from eating sh*T. Yi-Chin stood aside and watched the interaction between the human and the dog quietly. Soon, his mother, Wulan, began urging the little girl to wash up and have breakfast. Yi-Chin put the patriarch into the little girl's bag after he was done with all of that. He then walked to school with her. At the entrance of Little Swan Kindergarten, Olan had been waiting at the school entrance since the beginning. She could not help but look across the street with her beautiful eyes. She would take out her phone to check the time every now and then. She frowned slightly as if she was waiting for someone. She wore a beige dress that day and a thin burgundy shirt with cropped sleeves. Half of her fair arms were exposed, and her long hair flowed down to her waist like a waterfall. Her dressing attracted the attention of the family members who passed by. The uncle at the entrance could not help but tease, Ms. O, are you waiting for your boyfriend? Olan's pretty face blushed when she saw his flirtatious stare. She shook her head immediately and said, Uncle Zhao, and no. I can't believe that our Shaotian kindergarten's big swan has been taken by someone. What a pity, the uncle lamented while shaking his head. Not waiting for your boyfriend? Who are you kidding? I've never seen you dressed up as beautifully as you are today. Look, not only did you put on some light makeup, but you even drew on your eyebrows. Your skin is so tender. Oh, Lan blushed. Just when she was going to explain, she saw an ordinary-looking young man walking over with a little girl in his arms. Mr. Yi. Oh, Lan went to him immediately. Yi-Chin looked at her dressing in surprise and said while smiling, Ms. Oh, were you waiting for me? Olan nodded. Just when she was going to speak, Meng Meng, who was in Yi-Chen's embrace, complained, Ms. Oh, don't you love me any more? I can't believe you only greeted Daddy when you saw me and Daddy. Naughty girl, I love you. Oh, Lan snickered and could not help but pinch the little girl's nose. Meng Meng smiled mischievously. Do you love my daddy too? Yes. Oh, Lan said by instinct. She blushed when she realized that she had been tricked. She waved her hand immediately and said, And no, I don't. Meng Meng, you've become naughty. How dare you tease me? Although she said that, she peeped at Yi-Chen intentionally. She was relieved when she noticed that Yi-Chen did not have any expression on his face. At the same time, she felt a little disappointed. Meng Meng pouted and said in all seriousness, Ms. Oh, although I know that you like my daddy a lot and that he's very handsome, you should give up. My daddy has a wife. He won't like other women. Tui, who likes your daddy? Oh, Lan patted her head angrily. Moreover, how is your daddy handsome? He's clearly not handsome, all right? I don't care. Daddy's the most handsome. Daddy's my Prince Charming, Meng Meng said righteously. Yi Qin laughed out loud when she called him Prince Charming. He said to Olan while looking at her, Ms. Oh, I suppose there's something that you want to talk to me about. My daddy. Olan looked at the long Ferrari by the roadside by instinct. Yi Qin nodded to show that he understood. He got her to wait for a while and got into the Ferrari with her after sending Meng Meng to her class. Oh, Guoliang, who looked haggard, knelt from the back seat immediately and begged, Miracle Dr. Yi, I'm here to apologize for what I did. I hope that you can save my life. Olan, who was standing aside, said with a complicated expression on her pretty face, My daddy stopped forcing me to marry Ding Lei. On top of that, he transferred all his company shares to me. Yi Qin nodded to show that he understood. After thinking about it, he took out a black medicinal pill and tossed it into Oh Guoliang's embrace directly. You'll be fine after you eat this. I'll be fine after I eat this? Oh, Guoliang was stunned to look at the black thing in her embrace. She thought Yi Qin was joking with her. Lan was dumbstruck. Could a medicinal pill like that cure AIDS? No matter how she looked at it, he seemed like a fraud. Yi Qin said impatiently, It's up to you whether you want it or not. I'll eat it, I'll eat it. Oh, Guoliang clenched her teeth and swallowed the black medicinal pill. She said with a bitter expression, Why does it smell bad? It's so salty. You'll be fine after you have diarrhea. If you're still worried, you can go to the hospital for a checkup after you have diarrhea, Yi Qin said with an unnatural expression. Could he say that the black medicinal pill was refined from the patriarch of Hell's Pea? In the patriarch's words, What right does a mortal have to eat medicinal pills? He only deserves to drink my pee. Moreover, it can cure all diseases. Yi Qin got out of the car as soon as he was done speaking. He did not intend to stay at all. Oh, Guoliang opened his mouth and was going to speak when he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his stomach. He said to the driver immediately, Hurry up and drive. I'm having diarrhea. What the few of them had no idea was that a man in a baseball cap put his camera away quietly at the side of the road less than 200 meters away from the Ferrari. He then got into a black Bentley. At the Shenghua Corporation, a handsome young man took a good look at the photos on the table. They were all photos of Yi Qin and Olan. He had a grim expression on his face. That be *TCH. The young man flipped the table. His expression was ferocious. I've given you flowers and diamonds to woo you. Forget it if you don't accept them. But you're talking and laughing with a poor brat. They're so intimate. And that old man, Guoliang, he promised to marry his daughter to me. But he's going back on his word for this poor brat. Chapter 55. At Yaffle Cosmetics Company, Limited, Yi Qin went to the office directly after leaving the kindergarten. Since the company belonged to him, he had to run it no matter what so that he could make money. After all, cultivation required a partner, wealth, and location. Naturally, wealth referred to money. With money, he could buy many precious herbs to refine medicinal pills and equipment. When he arrived at the entrance of the company, he was surprised to see a person. It was Yiwen. At the moment, she was blocked by the security guard at the door. The guard refused to let her in. Yi Qin walked over while frowning. The guard saluted him as soon as he saw him and said with a smile, Director Yi! What's going on? Yi Qin asked while looking at Yiwen, who was standing aside. It had been a few days since he last saw her. She looked a little pale, as if she had not slept well. The security guard had no idea about Yiwen and Yi Chen's relationship, but he explained patiently, Director Yi, this lady said that she used to be our company's employee. She even said that she left something inside and wanted to get it. I asked her to show me her employee ID according to the company's entry and exit rules, but she couldn't. I left in a hurry the last time, so I left my ID in the office drawer. Yiwen glanced at Yi Chen with a complicated expression on her pretty face. She bit her lip, feeling wronged. If she had a choice, she would not want to return to this place, let alone see Yi Chen. She had been in a bad mood ever since she was fired. She was angry, humiliated, and embarrassed. Her cousin, who she had looked down on time and time again, had slapped her in the face again and again. For example, the mansion in 9 Dragons Bay, the list of 500,000 sets of cosmetics, and the chairman of her own company. Yiwen clenched her fists tightly as she thought to this point. Rage filled her heart. Why were you late the day I brought you here for the interview? Why did you wear that ill-fitting suit? If you didn't do that, perhaps I wouldn't hate you. Then, what happened next wouldn't have happened. However, Yi Chen had no idea what she was thinking at the moment. He turned his head and said to the guard, she was indeed our employee, "Let her in." He walked into the office after saying that. "Have a safe trip, Director Yi." "Take care, Director Yi." The guard sucked up to Yi Chen in all sorts of ways. He did not care if Yi Chen could see it. Yiwen felt even more bitter when she saw that. She hesitated for a moment and walked to the sales department's office. On the day she was fired, she had left in a hurry and had left her ID card behind. Yesterday, she had found a new company through her connections and needed an ID card when she was hired. Otherwise, she would not have put down her pride and come back to this sad place. Ever since Yi Chen started the fire 3 times on the day he was appointed, the entire sales department had become obedient. Everyone had their eyes on Yi when the moment she walked into the office. Everyone was stunned at first, and they had different expressions on their faces. Some were sympathetic, some were gloating, and some were even disgusted. A female employee who was rather close to Yi stood up while smiling. "Wen, you're finally back. I told you that no matter how ruthless Director Yi is, he's still your cousin. He won't be that cruel." "I am back to get something," Yiwen explained with her head down, not daring to look at the people. The office was silent for a few seconds. A bespectacled male employee immediately waved his hand and said, "If you want to take it, do it quickly. Don't disturb our work." "Chinbo, what are you talking about? To think that Wen always helps you." The female employee from before could not help but glare at him. Chinbo could not help but scoff. "She helps me? I've been annoyed with her since the beginning. She used to point at me just because she's Lu Feng's girlfriend. The 2 sluts, Zhao Qian and Zhang Li, even bullied her because of her." "You," the female employee from before was enraged. "Chinbo is right." Another slightly plump man chimed in with sarcasm. "Someone's really something. Not only did she not help her cousin when he came to work, but she's also cold to him. She even pretended not to know him. She deserves what happened today." "That's right. Director Yi disguised herself as an employee and came to our sales department to keep a low profile. She knows everyone's character very well. The truth has proven that those who are fired are scumbags while those who stay are the elites." A series of mockery came at Yiwen. She felt a lump in her throat. She covered her mouth with her hand and shouted, "All right, can you guys stop talking? I'm just here to pick up my stuff." She ran to her previous seat after saying that. She opened the drawer and ran out of the office after picking up her identity card. She cried as she ran. Yiwen finally could not help but cry after running out of the office. She felt wronged. Why does everyone think that it's my fault? What exactly did I do wrong? Yi Chen, why did you leave a bad impression on me in the beginning? It's all your fault. At that moment, a white Porsche drove to the side of the road. As the window wound down, a delicate, pretty face appeared. "Wen, are you all right?" "Sister Olan, I'm fine." Yiwen wiped her tears with a tissue immediately. Her eyes were red. The lady in the car was Olan. Olan walked out after opening the car door. She held Yiwen and comforted her. All right. Stop crying. It seems like you haven't eaten, have you? Let's go. I happen to know a farmhouse nearby That tastes great. It's my treat. Olan helped Yi-Wen into the car as she spoke, and the car drove away. However, they did not notice that a black Mercedes-Benz was following them at a moderate speed. At the Blue Wave Bay farmhouse. After getting Yi-Wen to sit down, Olan called the boss over and ordered many dishes. She then said to Yi-Wen, "Tell me, did someone bully you? I'll help you vent your anger." "Sister Olan, I'm really fine." Yi-Wen did not tell her about Yi Chen and her recent experience. Olan could only let it go, seeing that Yi-Wen was unwilling to tell her. She said, while smiling, "Have you found your ID? I've just taken over the company, so I know nothing. I'll get you to be the marketing supervisor in my company this time. After all, you've worked in this field before this." "Thank you, Sister Olan," Yi-Wen said with gratitude written all over her face. She felt much better now. Olan rolled her eyes at her and said angrily, "We've known each other for a long time. Moreover, my mother is your university professor. We're family. Why are you saying that?" Yi-Wen nodded. She could not help but think of Yi Chen in her head. There was a faint hatred in her. What's so great about being the director? God knows how long you'll be the director. Although you fired me, I found another company in the blink of an eye. Moreover, I'm the sales supervisor from the very beginning. Speaking of which, I should thank you. Not long after, the owner of the farmhouse then served the dishes. "Let's eat. Follow me to the office after you're done," Olan greeted her passionately. After thanking him, Yi-Wen removed the bracelet on her hand and placed it on the table. She picked up her chopsticks and began eating. Olan looked at the bracelet with 6 beads by instinct. Her pretty eyes lit up. "Wow, this bracelet is so pretty." "Pretty?" Yi-Wen was stunned. Olan smiled from the bottom of her heart. "It's really pretty. Where did you get it? I'll get one someday." She really felt that it was not bad. Although the bracelet was connected by a rubber band, the 6 beads on it were obviously man-made, and the quality was also good. It looked very pleasing to the eye. Moreover, she had lived a life of luxury since she was a child. Her mother was not only a university professor, but also owned a company. Her father also owned a company, so she didn't care much about gold and silver jewelry. "Someone I hate gave it to me," Yi-Wen said in slight disgust. She then pushed the bracelet to Olan. "Sister, take it if you like it. It's not something valuable anyway." She did not want anything that belonged to Yi Chen. The reason why she kept the bracelet was that she had yet to find the opportunity to return it to Yi Chen. "I won't hold back then." Noticing that Yi-Wen seemed to dislike the bracelet, Olan hesitated for a moment and extended her arm to take it. She asked curiously after observing it for a while. Chapter 56. Yi-Wen said while frowning when she saw Olan's suggestive look. "No, it's a birthday present from my cousin." "Relative? I think it's your boyfriend. Did Lu Feng give it to you?" Olan asked while smiling in disbelief. She had seen Lu Feng once before, but because she was focused on taking care of her mother at that time, she did not have much contact with him. "Sis, it really isn't." Yi-Wen pursed her lips and panicked. "Moreover, I've broken up with Lu Feng. Ever since the night of her birthday, she had lost interest in Lu Feng. She could not help but think of a certain person who had saved her that night. Therefore, she took the initiative to break up with Lu Feng after she was fired. "I'm sorry, I didn't know beforehand." Olan's smile froze. She said apologetically and changed the topic. "Did you say that your cousin gave you this bracelet? Where did he buy it?" "I heard that he did it himself," Yi-Wen said with an unnatural expression. She could not help but feel enraged when she thought about this. A dignified chairman of the board of directors actually gave a birthday gift in such a shabby way. It was obvious that he was deliberately humiliating me. Olan was shocked. "You made it yourself? Your cousin is quite clever with his hands. What's his name again? Someday I'll ask him to make a few more for me." "His name is Yi Chen," she added at the end of her sentence. "Sister, there's no need for you to look for him. He's very arrogant. His EQ is a little low, and he's not likable. The reason she said that was because she was worried that Yi Chen would offend Olan and drag her into it. Olan was slightly stunned. What did you say his name was? Yi Chen. That's right. His name is Yi Chen. Sister, do you know him? Yiwen nodded and looked at her curiously. Olan secretly inhaled and said while smiling, I don't think so, but I know someone with the same name as your cousin. He's a miracle doctor too. After saying this, she subconsciously shook her head. Yi Wen's cousin should not be Mr. Yi. Things couldn't be so coincidental. Besides, not only did Mr. Yi cure his mother's mental illness, he even cured his father's AIDS with a black pill. It was not an exaggeration to say that his medical skills were unparalleled. If Yiwen had such a cousin with such amazing medical skills, she would love him. Why would she hate him? Sister, the Yi Chen that you know is a miracle doctor? Yiwen was stunned. She thought she heard it wrong. Yes. Lan nodded and told her about how Yi Chen treated Xin Shuhua and Guliang while smiling. She did not mention anything else. Yiwen was shocked to hear that. She shook her head and said, Then we don't know the same person. She heaved a sigh of relief in her heart. I knew it. How could there be such a coincidence? If her cousin had such amazing medical skills, the news would have spread a long time ago. Lan patted the softness on her chest. That's why I was shocked when I heard you say those two names. Sister, don't tell me that you like this miracle Dr. Yi. Yiwen looked at Lan Riley. She even said that it was her first time seeing Lan introducing someone so respectfully. She even had a smile on her face when she mentioned him. Lan's pretty face blushed instantly. She retorted angrily, Who likes him? I'm just grateful. Although she said that her cheeks were getting redder. Apart from feeling shy, she was also a little disappointed. After all, Mr. Yi had a daughter. Yiwen did not want to talk about Yi Chen anymore. She hesitated and asked weakly while clenching her teeth. Oh yeah, sister. Have you heard of ancient martial artists? Ancient martial artists? Lan looked stunned. Subsequently, she snickered and said, That's something that only exists in novels, isn't it? That's impossible in reality. No. Yiwen shook her head and said in a very certain tone, I've seen it. I saw it with my own eyes. He tossed someone up into the sky with one hand and slapped the person into the wall. Lan stretched her arm out and touched her forehead immediately. She said in surprise, You don't have a fever. Why are you talking nonsense? Sister, I'm telling the truth. Yiwen was pissed. After slapping Lan's hand away, she told her everything that happened that night when she ran into the alley while drunk. Lan was dumbstruck when she heard that. Her voluptuous breasts could not stop moving up and down. She only said a while later, It's fortunate that it's me. If it were someone else, they'd think that you're love-struck and fantasizing about your future Prince Charming. Yiwen stomped her feet angrily. Sister, based on what you said, the man in the black robe and the clown mask is an ancient martial artist. Lan went back to the topic. Yiwen said in certainty, That's right. Think about it. How can an ordinary person be so capable? Moreover, I think that person's back looks familiar. He's young too. Did you look for him later on? Lan asked. Yiwen forced a smile. I did, but I couldn't find him. It's like he vanished. Not only did she look for him, but she even went to the alley that night again. She even compared the black robe that Yi Chen had draped over her on the internet. However, she could not find anything. On the contrary, she realized that the man's height, voice, and tone were very similar to Yi Chen's when she was recalling. However, she squashed the thought as soon as it popped up. How could it be him? Forget it. It doesn't matter if you can't find him. If he's really an ancient martial artist, I don't think he'd want you to find him. Lan could not help but comfort Yiwen when she saw how upset she was. Yiwen sighed. She could only calm herself down and begin eating. Half an hour later, both of them were almost done. Olan drove out of the farmhouse with Yi Wen after paying the bill. The farmhouse was located in the suburbs. After getting off the highway, they had to pass through a small mountain road. There were large patches of corn around, and the road was rather narrow. Just when Olan was halfway there, she suddenly noticed a BMW behind her at an extremely fast speed. Before she could react, she heard a thud. The BMW behind her had crashed hard into the back of the Porsche. "Sister, what's going on?" As the car shook intensely, Yiwen, who was in the passenger seat, was almost flung out. She was so shocked that her face turned pale. Before Olan could think too much about it, the BMW behind crashed into the Porsche again. The Porsche crashed into the cornfield at the side, and the car door was flung open. Both of them rolled out of the car hard. Meanwhile, the black BMW stopped by the roadside. Subsequently, 2 men in suits and ties walked out of the car. They walked toward Yi, when one step after another with an unfriendly look in their eyes. Olan coughed hard a few times. She held back the excruciating pain and helped Yiwen, who was next to her, up. She said to the duo who were walking over, "Who exactly are you guys?" She was not dumb. She realized that something was wrong from the series of events earlier. Clearly, these 2 people were coming for them. "Ms. Oh, our target isn't you, but her. It's best that you stay out of our business." The leading man pointed at Yi Wen and walked toward her while smirking. Yi Wen's pretty face changed. She stood next to Olan by instinct and said in fear, "What are you guys trying to do?" "I don't know you guys." She had no idea what was going on until now. "Ms. O?" Olan's pretty face changed. She pulled Yi Wen behind her immediately and said, while pretending to be calm, "You guys know me? Who exactly are you guys? Why are you guys capturing Wen? Why are you talking nonsense with her? We'll bring both of them back," the other man said impatiently. He then charged at Olan and Yi Wen while grinning hideously. "Sister." Yi Wen was so scared that she cried directly. Olan held Yi Wen's hand tightly as she watched the man running toward her. Her heart sank completely. She would not have brought Wen here for dinner if she had known that this would happen. No, she must not let Wen be captured, no matter what. Just when the man was less than 20 centimeters away from Olan and Yi Wen, Olan clenched her teeth. Just when she extended her arm to hold the man back, Yi Wen seized the opportunity to escape. However, in the next second, she saw a blue gleam explode from her body all of a sudden. Bang! A loud thud came. Chapter 57. The scene that came out of nowhere shocked everyone. The screen of light also flashed by. Olan looked at the string of beads on her right wrist by instinct. She heard a soft explosion, faintly as soon as the light screen appeared. Subsequently, she felt her wrist go numb. There were supposed to be 6 beads on the string of beads, but one was missing at the moment. She looked down at the ground immediately and realized that there was a layer of white powdery substance under her feet. Her heart skipped a beat. Could it have saved us? She was in slight disbelief. Yi Wen saw what happened earlier too. Her pretty face was blank as disbelief filled her face. The light screen that saved us earlier. Did it come from the string of beads? The only man left at the scene had a change of expression. He was shocked by what happened earlier, looking at his partner who had passed out on the ground. He wanted to run after some hesitation. However, he was afraid of what the person behind him would do. Eventually, he clenched his teeth and charged at Olan. "I don't believe I can bump into a ghost in broad daylight." "Sister," Yi Wen called out by instinct. Olan's pretty face changed. She looked at the string of beads on her wrist and grabbed Yi Wen tightly with determination written all over her face. She watched the man charging at them without moving. Just when the man was approaching them, thud! Another light screen exploded from Olan's body. The man felt like he had collided with an iron wall. His body flew out and landed hard on the ground. He passed out instantly. Olan and Yi Wen saw it clearly this time. The light screen did indeed explode from the string of beads. Olan looked down immediately. Another of the 5 beads on the string of beads had exploded. There were only 4 beads left now. It's it. Olan looked at the string of beads on her wrist in surprise and joy. She mumbled, "It saved us." If she was just guessing earlier, she was 100% sure now. "Sister, did this necklace save us earlier?" Yuan looked at the necklace blankly. Her head was buzzing. Olan grabbed Yi Wen while her pretty face was flushing. "Wen, your cousin gave you a magic tool. It's a real magic tool. I heard that magic tools have functions that ordinary people can't imagine. For example, this one is for self-defense. The 6 pearls on it can save you 6 times during critical moments." Olan's pretty face was flushed. Yi Wen's delicate body jolted and her face turned extremely pale. She could no longer hear what Olan was saying. I understand now. So the reason he gave me such a birthday present wasn't because he was stingy, nor was he trying to embarrass me. It was because this beaded necklace was the best and most valuable of all the birthday gifts. No wonder he calmly said his gift was priceless when Lu Feng mocked him in front of everyone on my birthday. Hee, an artifact that could save people 6 times. How could it not be priceless? I can't believe you gave me something so precious as a birthday present. I can't believe I despised it and even ran out in front of everyone. I can't believe I scolded you when I was drunk. I held a grudge and ignored you when you were targeted and Lu Feng was about to fire you. I was wrong. I was so wrong. Haha, so I was really wrong. Drip, drip. Yi Wen's tears flowed like pearls from a broken necklace as she thought about it. They flowed out of her eyes and wet her cheeks. She had never felt so bitter, regretful, ashamed, and all kinds of emotions at this moment burst out completely. Olan, who was standing aside, asked immediately after noticing that she was crying all of a sudden, "Are you all right, Wen?" Yi Wen did not feel embarrassed at all this time. She did not extend her hand to wipe her tears because she could not wipe away the regret in her heart no matter how hard she tried. She lifted her eyes to look at the beaded necklace on Olan's hand while sobbing. She bit her lip and asked, "Can you return it to me?" "That's what he gave me. I gave it to someone else without knowing what it's worth." At that moment, she was extremely regretful. Olan was slightly stunned. Subsequently, she removed the necklace and placed it in Yi Wen's hand without even thinking about it. Just when she was going to say something, she realized that Yi Wen was running along the cornfield while covering her mouth. "Where are you going, Wen?" Olan stopped her immediately. Yi Wen did not turn around. Instead, she ran even faster. She wanted to look for him and apologize to him personally. "I'm sorry, cousin," at Yaffle Cosmetics Company. In the meeting room when it was almost time to get off work, Yi Chen sat on the high seat and listened to the general manager, Gao Hong's work report expressionlessly. At that moment, his phone rang. Yi Chen smiled apologetically at the people below. Subsequently, he picked up his phone and walked to the corridor outside of the meeting room. It was the Patriarch of Hell calling. He had bought a phone for the Patriarch earlier and got him a SIM card. As soon as the phone was connected, the Patriarch's tearless voice came from the other side. "Master, who did you offend? This is my first day as a bodyguard, and I'm already being targeted by someone." "What happened?" Yi Chen's heart sank. At the same time, in a secluded alley near the Little Swan Kindergarten, a black puppy sat on the ground. A little black dog was sitting on the ground, and beside it was a little girl of 4 or 5 years old. She seemed to have fallen asleep. The black puppy was holding an iPhone with both of its front paws. It was spitting at the phone while looking speechless. If an outsider were to see that, they would definitely be scared to death. Today, the kindergarten was holding an event to visit the elderly in the community. However, the students were separated by a car on their way back. Subsequently, 2 hunks got out of the car and targeted the little girl, Mingming. The Patriarch was hiding in Mingming's school bag at the time. After noticing that, he did not want to expose his identity in front of everyone. Therefore, he secretly urged Mingming to run into the alley through telepathy. His goal was to lure the people behind him to a secluded place, to prevent the little girl from being scared. The patriarch blew at her to make her fall asleep. Killing intent flashed through Yi Chen's face after hearing that. He said with a scoff, "You did great. Leave one of them alive and kill the rest." "Can I eat the remaining one?" The patriarch smacked his lips. He was about to throw up from all the dog food he had been eating recently. He was thinking if he should change his taste. "Sure." Yi Chen hung up the phone after saying that. He looked ferocious. He was not worried about Mingming's safety. After all, with the old monster, the patriarch of hell, around, nobody below the master level could hurt him. He was furious that someone had set their eyes on him. On top of that, they had touched his reverse scale. Since that was the case, he would kill them. He would turn the world upside down and blood would flow like a river. After the patriarch of hell hung up, his furry ears twitched. He then looked at the entrance of the alley with his dog eyes and grinned. "You two brats, it's your bad luck to bump into me." Chapter 58. It was 6 in the evening. Yi Chen left the office and rushed home. Suddenly, he thought of something and looked behind him in deep thought. He then lifted his head to look at the surveillance cameras around him. He smiled and snapped his fingers softly. Pa! More than 10 surveillance cameras exploded at the same time. After that, his figure flashed, and in the blink of an eye, he walked into an abandoned, tube-shaped building nearby. At the same time, 2 men in suits quickly followed him. They looked at each other when they saw the empty apartment. "Where is he?" "I saw him come in with my own eyes." "Why is he gone?" The other man opened his eyes wide, looking confused. At that moment, a cold voice came from behind the duo. "Are you guys looking for me?" The duo turned their heads immediately and realized that there was a person behind them all of a sudden. They were almost scared to death. "Bada." Yi Chen lit a cigarette and asked coldly, "Tell me, who sent you guys here?" "Go to hell and ask the king of hell." One of them scoffed and charged at Yi Chen quickly. Pooh! A head flew into the air and blood splattered everywhere. The eyes of the face on the head were wide open. He had no idea how the person did it until he died. His companion knelt onto the ground in fear upon witnessing that. He was scared out of his wits. "Don't kill me. Don't kill me. I'll tell you. It's too late." Yi Chen flicked the cigarette ash away and pressed his palm on the man's head. He performed the soul-searching tactic by force and read all of his memories quickly. The soul-searching tactic was one of the more overbearing methods in the cultivation world. By using divine consciousness to invade one's consciousness forcefully, the person who was searched would either turn into an idiot or die on the spot. A while later, Yi Chen retracted his hand. A cold smirk appeared at the corner of his lips. "Dinglei, you want to kill me because of Olan? Very well. I was just thinking of looking for you. I can't believe that you're provoking me." He tossed a fireball, and the 2 dead bodies on the ground turned into ashes instantly. He then turned around and left. At Jinyang District, Yi Wen stood below Yi Chen's house with her fingers clasped together. She would lift her head to look upstairs and behind her at times. She seemed to be hesitating. A few seconds later, she took a deep breath and went upstairs in determination. She walked to Yi Chen's house and knocked on the door softly. The one who opened the door was Yi Hai. After a moment of surprise, he smiled and said, "Oh, it's Wen. Come in and sit." Yi Wen bit her lip and walked in. She looked around the entire house by instinct and saw Meng Meng bathing a dog. The dog kept shaking its body, causing the water on its body to splatter on Meng Meng's face. Meng Meng giggled. "But face, be good. Don't move around. You stink. Take a seat. Don't just stand there." Yi Hai poured a glass of water for her, passionately seeing that Yi Wen was spacing out. Yi Wen caught it with both hands immediately and asked by instinct, "Uncle, where's my cousin?" "Little Chin hasn't gotten off work yet. Why are you looking for him?" Yi Hai smiled. Yi Wen nodded and shook her head again. She had no idea where to start. She stared blankly at Meng Meng, who was bathing the dog, and said, while smiling, "Uncle, is she my cousin's daughter?" "Yeah." Yi Hai waved at the little fellow with a kind face. "Meng Meng, this is your little aunt." "Hi, little aunt. My name is Meng Meng." Meng Meng smiled sweetly. She was obedient. "Hi, Meng Meng." Yiwen was excited by instinct. Her cousin's daughter was so cute. Her pretty eyes dimmed. But why did she not realize that earlier? At the same time, footsteps came from outside. "Daddy's back." Joy filled Meng Meng's little face. She wiped her hands and ran out immediately. She jumped into Yi Chen's embrace, who was standing at the door. "He's back. Will he forgive me?" Yi Wen's heart skipped a beat. Various emotions rushed into her again. The courage that she had summoned after much difficulty was messed up now. Yi Chen picked the little girl up and kissed her cheek. He said, while smiling, "My dear daughter, I heard that there's an activity at school today. Are you tired?" "Daddy, I'm not tired." Meng Meng hugged his neck and said in a clingy manner, "I was on my way back to school when a bad uncle was chasing me. Cutie asked me to run, and I fell asleep. The bad uncle was gone when I woke up." Yi Chen came to a realization. He walked in after putting her down. He was slightly stunned when he saw Yi Wen next to her. However, he said nothing and walked into the bathroom after looking away. Yi Wen had been keeping her head down since the moment he walked in. She dared not lift her head to look at him. She only lifted her head after he entered the bathroom. She stood up and said, "Uncle, then I'll head back first." "You're leaving as soon as you're here? Why don't you head back after dinner? Your aunt is going to get off work soon," Yi Hai said while frowning. "No, there's no need for that." Yi Wen left Yi Chen's house as if she was escaping after saying that. She felt much more relaxed as soon as she walked out. Her cousin, whom she used to view as trash and look down on, was now like a huge mountain pressing down on her, making it hard for her to breathe. She did not even have the courage to apologize. Yi Chen walked out after changing his clothes. He asked when he saw the empty couch, "Dad, is she gone?" "That's right. She doesn't even want to eat." Yi Hai sighed and said while frowning, "Wen never comes to our house. Why is she acting so weird today? Did you bully her?" "No." Yi Chen shook his head in between tears and laughter. He did not care and took out the hairdryer to dry the patriarch's body. The patriarch's body tensed up. He seemed to be unable to take Yi Chen's enthusiasm. He said weakly through voice transmission through divine consciousness, Master, the person you asked me to keep alive is dead. I scared him to death." The patriarch was a little guilty. There were only 2 people who chased him into the alley. The patriarch swallowed one of them without saying anything, while the other one was scared to death. What else could he do? "Don't worry. I know everything." Yi Chen shook his head and said through voice transmission, "Guard the house tomorrow night. I'm going out." The patriarch could not stop nodding. He could not help but jolt when he sensed the killing intent that was difficult to hide from Yi Chen. "Oh my God! This brat is probably going to kill someone. I wonder which bastard is going to be unlucky." The next night, Yi Chen went to Yang Tian's house directly. Yang Tian welcomed him as soon as he saw him. He said with excitement written all over his face, "Xiao Yezi, you're amazing. You really cured Hao Hao's heart disease." He had personally brought Yang Hao to the hospital for a checkup yesterday. The checkup report showed that his son's heart disease was cured overnight. Apart from being excited, he was also filled with admiration and infinite gratitude for Yi Chen. He was going to kneel to Yi Chen as he spoke, "You saved Hao Hao's life, which means that you've saved my life. From now on, the lives of both of us are yours." "No need." Yi Chen stopped him immediately. He looked at the little girl who had fallen asleep on the couch and said with an extremely cold expression, Chapter 59. "What? Mkill?" Yang Tian exclaimed. Subsequently, he stopped talking immediately as shock filled his face. Yi Chen said, "What do you think?" "Brother, are you really going?" That place is very dangerous. You might even die. Yang Tian's lips were shaking as he held the cigarette in his mouth. He was getting more and more confused about this brother of his. A hot-blooded man should be brave. If there's anything that stands in your way, just kill them all. Yi Chen patted his shoulder while smiling and said, "Don't worry. Since I said I'm going to kill someone, it'll be someone else who dies. Of course, you don't have to go if you're scared." Yang Tian took a good look at him and sighed softly. In the end, he brought Yi Chen out. The duo headed straight to the underground boxing market under Dinglei. Along the way, Yang Tian introduced the information about underground boxing to Yi Chen. All in all, underground boxing could be summed up in 4 words. There were no rules. Underground boxing was different from regular boxing and fighting competitions. In an underground boxing competition, boxers would fight to the death. Apart from the use of weapons, one could say that both parties would resort to all sorts of methods. The process was usually bloody and violent. Meanwhile, there would be serious injuries and deaths in an underground boxing competition. Therefore, most people would not choose to become an underground boxer unless they had nowhere else to go like Yang Tian. It was precisely because of its bloody nature that it attracted a large number of spectators. Naturally, the main reason was that underground boxing was usually related to gambling. Each boxer had a boss behind them. When the boxers were fighting for the high prize money, the bosses would begin betting with each other. Meanwhile, the organizer of the boxing arena seized the opportunity to set up bets outside to attract the spectators to place their bets. Yang Tian and Yi Chen walked for over half an hour before arriving at their destination. It was an underground parking lot near the suburbs. There was a small door that was dug out in the parking lot. There were 2 tall, hunky men guarding the door. Each of them was holding a magnetic detector. The leading hunky smirked in disdain as soon as he saw Yang Tian. "Yo, Yang Xiaochang, you're pretty tough. You were beaten up like a dog a few days ago, but you can move now." Yang Tian's face flushed when he heard the name Yang Xiaochang. Yang Tian's face instantly turned red, because he had participated in this underground boxing market 20 times without dying. At most, he was heavily injured. Therefore, many people gave him the name Yang Xiaochang, meaning the unkillable Xiaochang. The hunk glanced at Yi Chen. "Yang Xiaochang, who's this guy?" "He is my friend. He is also here to participate in the competition," Yang Tian said coldly. The hunk snickered and said to Yi Chen while looking at him, "Great, another cockroach." "Cockroach, since you're a new customer, you'll have to pay a deposit of 100,000 yuan first." "Don't all new customers have to pay a deposit of 10,000 yuan? Since when did it become 100,000? Yang Tian's expression changed, feeling very indignant. "My words are the rules. Enter or leave if you want." The burly man sneered. His voice fell. Yi Chen's eyes focused as he slammed his palm. Bang, bang. The 2 burly men's bodies flew in heavily. No one knew if he was dead or alive. This series of actions was so fast that Yang Tian could not even see it clearly. When he finally reacted, he was shocked. "Xiao Yeziu, why are you talking so much to 2 dogs?" Yi Chen retracted his hand slowly and said with an extremely cold expression. At the same time, inside King Fist City, there was a sofa before the fence on the 2nd floor of the boxing ring. A young man in a suit was sitting on the chair with his legs crossed. The young man was approximately 24 or 25 years old. He was rather handsome, but his handsome face was filled with malice at the moment. Ding Lei tossed the phone in his hand and could not stop cursing. Useless! A bunch of useless people. His underling had called earlier. The operation of the 10 people that he sent had failed. 4 of them were missing, and their bodies were nowhere to be found. The underling standing next to him knelt immediately. He did not even dare to breathe loudly while trembling in fear. Ding Lei only asked a few seconds later, "Why didn't that useless Yang Tian come today?" "Master Ding, Yang Xiaochang just finished a fight a few days ago. His brow bone is broken. I'm guessing he won't be able to get up for at least 10 days to half a month. One of his underlings said immediately. That useless thing is lucky. Ding Lei pulled a lady before him into his embrace. His hands were roaming all over her body in a domineering manner. The lady shrieked in pain and said while exhaling, Master Ding, I don't understand. Yang Tian offended you, but you didn't kill him. Instead, you got him to fight in our boxing ring. What do guys know? Ding Lei looked at her in disdain and said with a scoff, he offended me. It'll be too easy for me to kill him. I'll definitely make him wish he was dead. Wasn't he arrogant earlier? I'll take advantage of his son's weakness and force him to be my human punching bag. I'll torture him to the extreme. He'll be lucky if he dies in the boxing ring. If he's lucky enough to survive 80 rounds, I'll get someone to chop off the father and son's limbs. I'll cut off their tongues and eyeballs. I'll send them to the enamel circus to be crippled horses. Everyone's heart skipped a beat upon hearing that. The so-called crippled horses were people who were treated like animals and locked in cages in the circus for the tourists to watch. Some of the tourists would even throw darts at the people in the cages. Such a cruel act was popular in the West. At that moment, 2 loud bangs were heard. 2 people flew in from the outside and landed heavily on the stage of the boxing field. The people were shocked. Subsequently, 2 people walked over slowly from the boxing ring's entrance. They were Yi Chen and Yang Tian. Ding Lei pushed the lady in his embrace away as soon as he saw Yang Tian. He stood up immediately and said with an extremely grim expression, Yang Tian, what are you doing? The boxing ring had been established for 2 years. Nobody had ever dared to challenge them. It was the first time something like that happened today. How could he not be furious? Yang Tian forced himself to explain, I brought my friend here to fight, but we're here to destroy your place too. Yi Chen interrupted him before he was done speaking. Yi Chen looked around expressionlessly. The boxing ring was divided into 3 floors. People mainly gathered on the first floor. It occupied close to 1,000 square meters, and there were 3 spotlights hanging above them. Meanwhile, there was an empty space with a red carpet in the middle of the boxing ring. There were 3 rings on the empty space, and a few bare-chested people were swinging their fists faintly on them. There were approximately over 1,000 people gathered on the first floor of the boxing ring. However, everyone was watching Yi Chen and Ding Lei with bated breath. The 2 of them came here to fight, and they said that they were going to destroy the place. They were extraordinarily arrogant. Some of them could not help but look at Ding Lei by instinct. Ding Lei's expression was extremely terrible. He suddenly scoffed after glaring at Yi Chen. Brother, are you sure you're here to fight? I have to remind you in advance that punching can kill people, okay? If you kneel now. Yi Chen looked into Ding Lei's eyes fearlessly and said expressionlessly, fighting is secondary. I'm here to borrow something from you. Borrow something from me? Ding Lei smiled instead of being mad. I wonder what you want to borrow. Don't tell me that you want to borrow a coffin from me. He was already pissed. Now that Yi Chen had messed around in public, he had the intention to kill Yi Chen. Bada! Yi Chen lit a cigarette slowly and smirked. He blew a smoke ring out of his mouth. Chapter 60. What? Want to borrow young Master Ding's head? The crowd was in an uproar as soon as Yi Chen said that. Everyone in the underground boxing arena held their breaths for a moment, thinking that they were hallucinating. This guy was really arrogant. Not only did he come here to cause trouble, he even dared to say that he wanted to borrow young Master Ding's head. To put it bluntly, didn't he want to kill him? This was insane. Who was young Master Ding? He was a member of the Lin City's wealthy Ding family. It was not an exaggeration to say that he had a terrifying background. He even ran several companies, such as this underground boxing arena. Who knew how many experts he had recruited? It's over. This kid is dead for sure. Everyone shook their heads, subconsciously. Bastard. As expected, Ding Lei cursed as his face turned extremely grim. He had never been threatened like this before. He glared at Yi Qin coldly and did not hide the killing intent on his face at all. I'm right here. Let's see if you're capable enough to come and take my head. Meanwhile, the 10 hunks behind Ding Lei took a step forward at the same time. They glared at Yi Chen with killing intent on their faces. There's no rush. No one can refuse what I want to borrow. Yi Chen shook his head nonchalantly and said while smiling, Before that, I'd like to experience how your useless subordinates hurt my brother. Good. Very good. In that case, come onto the stage and sign the life and death contract. Ding Lei was so angry that he laughed. As soon as he said that, everyone's expression changed. Child Ding was really angry because in the underground black boxing, signing the life and death contract was the most taboo method. Unless it was absolutely necessary, few people would choose this method. Because once it was signed, it meant that there was no room for reconciliation, and it would not end until one of them died. Wait, Yi Qin suddenly said. Ding Lei thought he was afraid and wanted to go back on his words. He sneered and said, What? Scared? It's too late. I gave you a chance, but you didn't cherish it. No. Yi Chen flicked the ash off his cigarette. What I mean is, since we're going to fight, why don't we add some spice? Don't tell me you want to use this money to bet on your opponent. Ding Lei's face was full of disdain. Yi Chen stretched and smiled in satisfaction. I told you that I'm here to mess things up. I'll use this money to buy you a coffin after this. Lest people say that I'm overbearing. Everyone was speechless. Aren't you domineering? The two of them single-handedly came to the door. Not only did they send the security guards flying, but they also broke the door and shamelessly said that they were here to cause trouble. If this wasn't overbearing, then what was? Ding Lei was so angry that he almost died. He immediately ordered his men to bring 5 full chests over. After opening them in front of everyone, he pointed at the cash inside and said, There's 100 million in here. If you win 1 round, I'll give you 10 million. If you lose, then it would be impolite of me to decline. Yi Chen nodded in satisfaction before he could finish speaking. Ding Lei gritted his teeth and said, Fine, then come on stage and sign the life and death agreement. His voice fell. Immediately, someone began to clean up the arena. The onlookers couldn't help but subconsciously take a few steps back, their faces full of excitement. The dim light, the surging blood vessels, the waving fists, the flying flesh and blood. Everyone who came here was looking for excitement from those elements. Imagine that the other party was fighting to the death in the arena while they were watching the show with their legs crossed, munching on melon seeds. At the same time, they could also place their bets. Wasn't that perfect? Yi Chen glanced at the arena that was less than 50 steps away from him. Just when he was going to go up, Yang Tian, who was behind him, pulled him back. Bro, why don't I go up on your behalf? My life is worthless anyway, and I'm used to being beaten up. I'm tough, so I can take a beating. He regretted it when he saw that they had to sign the life and death agreement. Yi Chen smiled and said without answering his question, Did you bring money? Yes. Yang Tian was stunned. Then he took out a stack of cash. Just 10,000 yuan. Remember to bet on me. Who knows, we might be able to open 2 bottles of 1980 Tula Fight when we get back. Yi Chen patted his shoulder while smiling and walked into the arena without hesitation. Everyone's expression turned grim. Isn't he being too pretentious? The fight hasn't even begun, and he's already thinking about opening a love fight to celebrate? Bro, I'm afraid that I can only buy you a coffin with this money. Yang Tian forced a smile. He had no idea what to do. Someone handed Yi Chen a pair of boxing gloves after he walked into the arena. He shook his head and rejected. It's all right. I don't need this to fight these pieces of trash. Subsequently, he turned his head to look at Yang Tian, who was below the arena, and said, Who's the first person who fought you? Point him out to me. Yang Tian hesitated for a moment as he took a good look at the crowd. Eventually, he stretched his arm and pointed at a half-naked young man with a ferocious face. Come on up. Yi Chen squinted and looked at him. The man was stunned at first. Subsequently, he looked at Ding Lei, who was on the second floor. He seemed to be asking for his opinion as eagerness filled his eyes. Wu Hong, kill him. I'll give you 1,000,000 yuan. Ding Lei nodded with a grim expression. Wu Hong was over the moon. He went into the arena immediately, afraid that someone would fight him for the money. As he went into the arena, the people below the arena exclaimed, "It's him, Wu Hong, who ranked No. 32 on the underground boxing leaderboard. I heard that he has a record of 5 consecutive victories. His punching speed is extremely fast. I can't believe this brat picked Wu Hong first. I wonder if he's stupid or overconfident. There's going to be a good show." Wu Hong was a head taller than Yi Chen. After putting on the boxing gloves, he gestured at Yi Chen in disdain and said while grinning, "Brat, it's your misfortune to pick me. I'll only need 3 moves to fight a piece of trash like you. Within 3 moves if I—" Before he was done speaking, he felt his vision blur. Someone seemed to have appeared before him within the blink of an eye. Subsequently, he felt an intense pain coming from his neck, and his vision went up. He saw the smiles on everyone's faces freeze. Their smiles were slowly turning into shock and fear. He even saw his lower body falling onto the ground. I am dead? That was the last thought that came to his mind before he died. A head fell with blood splattering. Yi Chen kicked, and the head flew directly to Ding Lei on the second floor. Ding Lei had yet to snap back to his senses from the shock earlier. He extended his arm to catch it by instinct. Ah! He shrieked in fear when he saw Wu Hong's eyes that were wide open. He tossed the head in his hand away immediately. Dead silence filled the arena. Everyone's eyes were wide open as they looked at the headless body on the arena. Wu Hong, who had 5 consecutive victories, was dead just like that? The strangest thing was that they did not even see how Wu Hong died from the beginning to the end. No one knew who retched, but everyone else started to retch as well. They loved blood. However, they had never seen such a gory scene before them. Yi Chen lifted his eyes to look at Ding Lei on the second floor. He grinned, revealing his white teeth. Chapter 61. Yi Chen's cold smile greeted him. Ding Lei felt a chill run down his spine. He said in disbelief, "How is that possible?" Wu Hong, who had fought up to 100 battles and had 5 consecutive victories, was killed in 1 blow. Not only that, but it was an instant kill. The shocked people below the ring only snapped back to their senses after hearing what he said. Now, the way they looked at Yi Chen changed. Their expressions were rather interesting. Disbelief, fear, admiration. Earlier, they thought Yi Chen was a reckless young man. Now it seemed like he was really capable. Yang Tian, who was standing aside, could not help but pinch his thigh. He screamed in excitement when he realized that it was not an illusion. He was overjoyed. In the ring, Yi Chen lifted his head to look at Yang Tian as if he did not see everyone looking at him. Who else? Point them out one by one. What? Was he going to continue? Everyone's heart skipped a beat. They could not help but feel their mouths go dry. Wasn't he overconfident? Yang Tian gulped and suppressed the shock within him. He stretched his arm and pointed at the remaining 19 people one by one. Some of them were scared, while some did not care. Ding Lei suppressed the shock within him and said while looking at Yi Chen with killing intent filling his face, "Brat, I've underestimated you. However, don't think that you're invincible just because you killed Wu Hong. I'll show you the consequences of offending me." He stretched his arm and pointed at the muscular man who was the biggest among the 19 people. "Chun Peng, you go. I'll give you 5,000,000 yuan if you kill him." The man nodded and was about to enter the ring. "Wait." Yi Chen stopped him all of a sudden. "It's boring to fight one by one. Why should I, Yi Chen, be afraid of a bunch of trash like you? The sooner I kill all of you, the sooner I can go home and drink." The crowd gasped as soon as he said that. 19 of them fighting him at the same time? Did I hear that right? Even those who had confidence in Yi Qin earlier could not help but curse at that moment. Fighting 19 people alone. Do you think you're Bruce Lee? You're overestimating yourself. Yang Tian's expression changed, and he shouted immediately, "Brother, don't! Don't do anything stupid." Any of the 19 people present was much more powerful than Wu Hong. Yi Qin might stand a chance if he were to fight one of them. However, fighting 19 people alone was no different from seeking death. As the saying went, random punches could kill an old master. Yi Qin ignored the people's exclamations. Instead, he looked at Ding Lei on the second floor and said extremely coldly, "What do you think? Do you dare to let your useless subordinates come up together?" "Good, very good, very good." Ding Lei said good 3 times in a row. His face was ferocious as he said, "Since you want to die quickly, I will fulfill your wish. Chun Peng, Wang Bin, Lian, all 19 of you come together. As long as you kill him, I'll give you 5 million each." His voice fell. The 19 people below the stage all jumped onto the stage. The audience couldn't help but shake their heads. The space in one arena could only be used by 2 people, which made it convenient for both sides to punch and dodge. But now, 19 people suddenly came up, taking up more than half of the space. That meant that Yi Qin had no extra space to dodge. He was dead meat under the joint attack of 19 powerhouses. A staff member immediately handed him a pair of boxing gloves. In a room on the 3rd floor of the boxing arena, a man and a woman were sitting on the sofa. The man was in his 50s and wore a traditional Chinese suit. He had an indifferent expression and exuded a capable and experienced aura. Most importantly, his temples were bulging. As he breathed in and out, his abdomen moved rhythmically. He was obviously a martial arts expert. Beside him was an extremely beautiful woman. She wore a black training suit, and her skin was as white as snow. Her facial features were exquisite, and there was a beauty mole on her chin that added a lot of charm to her. At this moment, the woman's gaze was focused on the arena on the 1st floor of the boxing arena. The lady laughed out loud when she saw that Yi Qin had challenged the 19 of them. "Master Feng, do you think that man is crazy? You've only won 1 match, and you're already so overconfident." The old man, called Grandmaster Feng, gave an indifferent end sound. He did not even raise his head. In this kind of small scene, a group of boorish men trying to show off their bravery and fierceness. He was not interested in it at all. At the same time, on the 1st floor of the arena, looking at the crowded arena, the atmosphere of the audience had already reached its peak. Ding, 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 as the referee bell rang. Nobody knew who shouted, "Kill him!" Ding Lei looked at Yi Qin in an extremely terrifying manner. A ferocious smirk appeared at the corner of his lips. "Kill him!" The 19 hunks with boxing gloves charged at Yi Qin at the same time, causing the entire arena to shake. Yang Tian clenched his fists tightly. His 5 fingers dug deep into his flesh, and he dared not breathe loudly. "Brother, you must hang in there. Die." Yi Qin did not retreat. Instead, he charged forward and slapped. The head of the man who was closest to him exploded on the spot. Blood splattered in the air. Gasp! The crowd gasped. One of them was killed in just 1 blow. Moreover, it was an instant kill. Do you have to be so brutal? The remaining 18 people were stunned by the scene. They stopped moving immediately by instinct, not daring to take another step forward. "What are you guys standing there for? Go and kill him." Ding Lei's expression changed as he growled while clenching his teeth. Another one was killed. It was equivalent to him being slapped in the face again. Another person charged at him. Once upon a time, there was a man who kept his promise. Yi Qin lifted his feet and stomped as if he was taking a stroll in a park. He threw a punch and pierced through the man's chest directly, killing with a glare. The body is lighter than a feather. Wearing an iron cutting sword, killing in a rage, cutting thighs and drinking with wine, shocking the gods and ghosts. Leaving the west gate in the morning, returning with a head. As he landed, a head was tossed into the sky. killing between heaven and earth, shocking the dark court, killing a man with 3 steps. The hand doesn't stop when the heart stops. A merciless massacre took place in the arena. Yi Chen was like a soul reaper. Every time he took a step forward, a life would be taken. Blood dyed his clothes, and the entire arena red. Killing intent filled his heart. The killing intent came from his good brother, Yang Tian, who was tortured mercilessly on the arena like a dog. It came from an innocent father who worked hard to earn money for his son's medical treatment. The killing intent came from this unfair world and the bullsh** T theory that everyone was an ant under the heavenly Tao. I'm the heavenly emperor and the mad southern immortal. So what if I'm rich? So what if I'm powerful? So what if I'm the heavenly Tao? I have no idea that when an ordinary man is enraged, blood splatters 3 feet high. When the emperor is enraged, there will be millions of corpses. The entire arena fell into dead silence. Everyone watched the massacre in the arena with their eyes wide open. They felt a bone-piercing chill rush up their backs. They were shocked, trembling, and terrified. At that moment, nobody dared to speak. They even held their breath, not daring to take a breath. Yi Chen's silhouette grew larger in their eyes. The sounds of killing, shrieks, heads falling to the ground, and blood flowing echoed in their ears. Is he a devil from hell? On the 3rd floor of the arena, the lady from before watched the scene below with a pale face. Fear and shock filled her beautiful eyes. Even Master Feng could not help but have a change of expression. What a powerful killing intent! However, what piqued his curiosity was that there was no true energy fluctuation on Yi Chen's body at all. Even his attack had no energy at all, as if he was purely relying on brute force. Could this brat have trained in the military? Master Feng mumbled to himself. Ding Lei's eyes were blank as he looked at Yi Chen, who was like a god of death who had descended. His limbs were cold as he looked at the dead bodies on the ground. A bad feeling flashed through his heart. He had kicked a metal plate. Who exactly was this brat? As the last person fell, Yi Chen turned his head around suddenly. He walked to Ding Lei on the 2nd floor with intense killing intent. He said as he walked, 2 years ago you killed a lady. She was my sister-in-law. I swore before her coffin that I'll use your head as a sacrifice. So I'll borrow your head. Everyone made way for him by instinct wherever he passed by. Nobody stopped him. They dared not even look him in the eye. Even Ding Lei's underlings were no exception. No, Ding Lei fell onto the ground. He was terrified. You can't kill me. I'm from the Ding family. Master Feng, help. Help. At that moment, he was finally scared. Chapter 62. When he was just a step away from Ding Lei, Yi Chen stopped. He lifted his head to look at the 3rd floor. There's someone else. Apart from him. Even the people below the ring snapped back to their senses. They looked around with their eyes wide open. They seemed to be curious about who exactly the Master Feng that Ding Lei mentioned was. A few seconds later, a faint sigh came from the 3rd floor. With a loud bang, the door of a room on the 3rd floor shattered, and the fragments scattered in all directions. Subsequently, a powerful energy tore through the air. A silhouette flew into the air. It was an old man in traditional attire. He stepped on the broken wooden door in the air and ran all the way here. He was as light as a swallow, and his body did not touch the ground at all, as if he knew Qigong. Everyone exclaimed out loud upon seeing that. Everyone subconsciously exclaimed and rubbed their eyes in disbelief. Am I hallucinating? It's that man can fly? That's the legendary Qigong. He's not flying. I can't believe there's such an expert in real life. I wouldn't believe it if I didn't see it with my own eyes. The way the old man appeared was no less shocking than when Yi Chen killed 19 people in a fit of rage. Ding Lei, who was lying on the ground, had joy on his face as if he had seen his savior, transforming energy into energy and moving like a swan. Is this the mastery of inner energy that Grandpa mentioned? How terrifying! He looked at Yi Chen viciously as he thought to this point, "Brat, with Master Feng here, not only will you not be able to kill me, but you'll also die a horrible death. I promise." Master Feng was an ancient martial arts expert. He was also the guest that the Ding family hired with a lot of money. He was extremely arrogant, and even the old master of the Ding family had to be polite to him. If Yi Chan was not endangered today, he might not even look him in the eye. Plop! Yang Tian fell hard onto ground. Shock and despair filled his face. Is he still human? Master Feng landed before Yi Chen. They were less than 5 steps away from each other. He clasped his hands behind his back and looked at Yi Chen expressionlessly as he said, "You killed 19 people in a fit of rage. Young man, your killing intent is too strong. I'll give you 2 choices. Either you surrender obediently and follow me back to the Ding residence to be dealt with, or I'll kill you on the spot." He saw very clearly from upstairs earlier that Yi Chen had no true energy on him. There was no energy in his techniques either. Therefore, he classified him as a strength cultivator who specialized in external strength. To this he was disdainful. In the world of cultivation, there was a famous saying, "If you don't practice martial arts, all your efforts will be in vain." The meaning was that if you don't enter the inner sect, you will always be an ant. Yi Chen lit a cigarette and chuckled softly. Master Feng furrowed his brows and was a little displeased. "What are you laughing at? There is a limit to this old man's patience. Young man, don't amuse yourself. How dare you smoke in front of me?" Yi Chen blew a puff of smoke and looked at him lazily with his head tilted. "I'm laughing at you for talking too much nonsense. I'm laughing at how arrogant you are. How dare you call yourself a master just because you've learned martial arts for decades? Be ****. Master Feng was enraged. Yi Chen squinted and enunciated word for word while looking at him. "Old fart, I'll give you 2 choices too. Either you scram or you die." As soon as he was done speaking, everyone was dumbstruck. Never had they thought that Yi Chen would have the guts to boast shamelessly facing an expert like Master Feng. Even Ding Lei was stunned. Subsequently, he was secretly happy and secretly scolded Yi Chen for being stupid. Did he really think that Master Feng was the same as those ordinary people from before? Master Feng had killed a cow with a single palm strike. How dare you? Master Feng's expression turned cold as killing intent flashed through his eyes. "You're asking for it. When I roamed the world, you were still a kid who had not weaned off your mother's milk. Go to hell." Master Feng shouted as soon as he said that. Master Feng shouted, and a powerful energy exploded from his body. The ground shook under the energy. He charged at Yi Chen at high speed. The energy around him was surging, causing a series of explosions in the air. Air destruction palm, an extremely ferocious palm technique, charged at Yi Chen. "You're slightly more powerful than Lin Fan." Yi Chen squinted and scoffed. "However, it's still not enough." In the next second, his body disappeared from where he was instantly. "He's so fast." Master Feng's eyelids twitched, and he looked for Yi Chen immediately. He had a bad feeling about this. At that moment, a gentle breeze blew. Master Feng only felt an unparalleled aura attack him, causing all the hairs on his body to stand on end. Then, a fist gradually enlarged in his eyes. Oh no! He did not have the time to be shocked and shouted immediately. He placed his hands on top of each other to block his chest in an attempt to neutralize the attack from the fist. Bang! The fist landed hard on Master Feng's body. All Master Feng felt was a ferocious energy that he had never experienced coming at him like an avalanche. Kacha! The arms that he used to block his chest were broken. Meanwhile, his body flew out like a torn burlap sack from the force. The friction on the ground left a mark that was tens of meters long. Uft! Master Feng felt like all his organs were on fire. He could not help but spit a mouthful of blood out. His eyes were filled with intense fear. A punch! With just one punch, he, a master of inner force, was defeated by his opponent. A terrifying thought flashed through his head. He looked at Yi Chen immediately and said in shock, "Why, you're an illuminating pulse expert." That was it. Only by clearing the conception and governing vessels and allowing the energy to flow through his limbs and bones could he achieve that. How was that possible? He did not look older than 30. An illuminating pulse expert at 30, the people below the stage were speechless. They had no idea what to say at that moment. They felt like things had just happened. However, the truth was always unexpected. Everyone looked at Yi Chen in admiration. Even Master Feng, who knew Qinggong had lost. Who else could it be? Ding Lei's jaw dropped as he stood dumbstruck. Never had he thought that Master Feng, who was known as the Ding family's #1 expert, would be defeated by a single punch. Great, great! Yang Tian was so excited that he had no idea what to say. He was shaking. Yi Chen walked to Master Feng, who was tens of meters away step by step. He said with a soft smile, "It's over." Sensing the killing intent on Yi Chen, Master Feng knelt onto the ground and kowtowed like he was pounding garlic. "Sir, I surrender. I won't interfere with Ding Lei's matter anymore. Please have mercy on me. I've told you to scram or die. Also, you talk too much nonsense." Yi Chen looked cold. He slammed his palm and crushed Master Feng's skull directly. Master Feng's had exploded, and blood mixed with brain matter splashed onto Ding Lei, who was standing aside. Looking at the blood on his hand, Ding Lei opened his eyes wide and jolted. He knelt onto the ground immediately in fear. Don't kill me. Do you want money or women? I can give them to you. You killed my brother's wife and sent people to kill my family." Yi Chen looked at him in a condescending manner. There was no mercy on his face at all. "Tell me, do you deserve to die?" Ding Lei's scalp went numb. He finally recalled that Yi Chen was the person that he had been trying to kill earlier. Just when he was about to beg by instinct, Ding Lei heard Yi Chen's voice. Just when he was about to beg by instinct, a huge palm landed and his head was tossed into the sky. It flew toward Yang Tian, who was below the stage. Yang Tian stretched his arm out to catch it immediately. "Compared to money and women, I want your head even more." Yi Chen chuckled and lifted his head to look at Yang Tian. 8 years ago, you lost a finger for me." Chapter 63. Looking at his enemy's head at such a close distance, Yang Tian turned his body to the side. His shoulders could not stop shaking. He only turned around a long while later and looked at Yi Chen in gratitude. He spat out 2 words in all seriousness. "Thanks, brother." Nobody knew that he had too many emotions when he said that. Before this, he had gone through too much. His wife had died a tragic death, and his son's life was in danger at any time. However, his enemy was living freely, and he had to suck up to his enemy despite the humiliation. Things were different now. His enemy was killed, his son was saved, and he was reunited with his old brother. He felt much more at ease now. Yi Chen glanced at the people below expressionlessly. The people held their heads down and dared not look at him. They dared not even breathe loudly as they were afraid that this devil had not killed enough. Frowning, Yi Chen took a deep breath in. He sank his chi into his dantian and roared with all his might. A roar that sounded like a dragon's roar exploded from his mouth. It was extremely powerful. However, it did not harm the buildings around at all. Instead, everyone's body went limp, and they fell one after another. Yang Tian's expression changed. "Xiao Yeziu, don't worry. I didn't kill them. I only erased part of their memories. They won't remember what happened tonight when they wake up," Yi Chen said while smiling. The 8 heavenly dragons' music that he had performed earlier was a cultivation method that targeted one's god soul. Although Yi Chen's cultivation base was not high at the moment, it was not a problem for him to erase a mortal's memory. Yang Tian was relieved. Yi Chen walked to Ding Lei's body and picked up the few boxes of cash. He then walked out of the boxing ring with Yang Tian. As he snapped his fingers, the lights in the boxing ring, including the cameras, shattered. The lights in the arena, including the cameras, were all shattered. At Yang Tian's house, Yi Chen placed Ding Lei's head before Yang Tian's wife's memorial tablet. He only turned his head to look at Yang Tian behind him after burning 3 jaw sticks. Don't you want to ask me why I became so powerful? Don't you want to ask me why I didn't even blink when I killed people? I don't. Yang Tian passed him a cigarette, lit it, and took a deep puff. His eyes revealed a hint of trust. You are my brother. No matter what you become, no matter what you go through, you will always be my brother. Yi Chen nodded and thought to himself that the Yang Tian from the past was back. He asked after a few seconds of silence, "What do you plan to do next?" "I haven't decided yet. Maybe I'll take Hao back to the countryside to see my parents. They miss him a lot." Yang Tian shook his head and looked at his son's room with a guilty expression. His son had grown up and had yet to see his grandparents. How could he not feel ashamed? Yi Chen thought about it and said, "Why don't you help me? I have a company now. It's a cosmetics company, but I'm planning to turn it into a pharmaceutical company. You can start from the position of deputy general manager." "You started a company?" Yang Tian was shocked again. He smiled bitterly and said, "I'm afraid I can't. If I bankrupt the company, if I say you can do it, then you can do it. You can be the deputy general manager first. I'll have Gao Hong guide you." Yi Chen frowned. "That's it. I'll send you the company's address later. Go there directly when you're done with your work. Oh yeah. Remember to bury that thing after you're done paying respects to sister-in-law. I don't want to scare my godson." Yi Chen left after saying that. At an unknown mountain in the northwest, there was a rundown Taoist temple in a relatively quiet place. There was a bunch of grape trees before the Taoist temple, and there was a rattan chair under the grape trees. A sloppy old Taoist priest was lying on the rattan chair like he was paralyzed. Upon closer inspection, one would notice that the old Taoist priest's aura was extremely weak. Meanwhile, there was an oil lamp under his feet. The light was flickering as if it would go out at any time. A young man in white stood before the old Taoist priest. He was only 17 or 18 years old. He carried a broken sword on his back and looked at the old Taoist priest quietly. "Cough, cough, cough." The old Taoist priest coughed twice. There was a trace of blood at the corner of his lips, but there was a smile on his face. "Hey, Genbrat, I'm dying. Can't you call me master? Don't worry. I'll avenge you." The young man in white was a man of few words. There was no expression on his face at all. In this world, it had no master or friends. It only had its master. They were both servants and friends. Its master had brought it along when he was still on chi refinement. Within 3,000 years, the man and the sword had conquered thousands of worlds and eventually conquered the immortal world. It was given the name Unparalleled, which was also known as the Heavenly Emperor Sword. Its master knew the sword, he knew it. It knew its master too. However, the rebel was too powerful. Its master extracted its consciousness from the Heavenly Emperor Sword at the critical moment. He wanted to send it to the lower realm to be reincarnated, as he did not want it to die for him. That day, it released a monstrous sword intent and wailed. It destroyed its own body to protect its master. That day, it fell into a coma. When it woke up, it realized that it had come to this world and had a body by chance. However, its master was not here. It wanted to look for its master. It wanted to protect the dignity of the sword path. If it was anyone else, they would definitely be driven to death by its words. However, the old Taoist priest laughed heartily. His laughter was filled with relief, calmness, and satisfaction. "Great. You don't have to erect a monument for me after I die. However, you have to observe mourning for me for 3 months. You're not allowed to leave the mountain for 3 months." The young man in white said calmly, "All right." The old Taoist priest's face turned red. It was a sign that he was dying. He used all his strength to lift his head and look at the young man beside him. He seemed to be murmuring, "I picked you up at the foot of Mount Tai half a month ago. I realized that you were born with a clear heart of the sword. You're a good seedling that knows how to practice the sword, so I brought you back. What a pity. What a pity that you're not willing to acknowledge me as your master. You think that my sword technique is inferior to your master's. I know you have an extraordinary background, but don't be careless. This world is not as simple as you think." As the old Taoist priest finished speaking, he fell back onto the rattan chair. His arms fell to the ground, and his eyes slowly closed. There was a trace of regret at the corner of his mouth. The oil lamp went out all of a sudden. The young man in white fell into silence for a moment. He knelt hard on the ground and kowtowed 3 times in all seriousness. "This is the ceremony to acknowledge you as my master and also to show my filial piety. I'll avenge you 3 months later." A drop of tear fell from the corner of the young man's eye. It then dripped onto the ground, and the sound was unusually clear. The young man lifted his head to look at the moon. His eyes were like stars. "Master, where exactly are you?" "At the foot of Sherwan Mountain." A middle-aged man with a rough look ran down the wheat field. Although it was nighttime, it was like he was running on flat ground. "You killed my junior brother. I'll avenge him. Mr. Yi, I'm here. I, Gufan, have been training hard for 40 winters and summers. It's time for me to come out. I hope that you won't disappoint me." Chapter 64. It was Saturday morning. At the 9 Dragons Bay Villa, the Patriarch of Hell looked at the tree that bore the black fruit. He said with his dog eyes wide open, "Master, what exactly is this tree? What's the fruit on it? Aren't you a tribulation, Almighty? You don't know it?" Yi Qin said coldly. The Patriarch shook his dog ears and walked around the tree. He smiled awkwardly. "Buttface, I've been cultivating in the cultivation world for more than 8,000 years. I think I'm omniscient, and I've seen many spiritual herbs and exotic plants, but I've never seen anything like this." He gulped as he spoke to this point. "I think we should pick the fruit and taste it. I'll be the first to taste it. I'll be the first to taste it. If it's poisonous, I'll be the one to die. You're quite loyal." Yi Qin chuckled. The tree could release spiritual energy when it bloomed. It even helped him break through to intermediate stage, spirit, assembly. How could it be poisonous? The Grand Patriarch rolled his eyes. "Although this fruit looks a little strange, it should be edible. If I eat it when this devil isn't paying attention, how could Yi Qin not know what it was thinking?" He said with a scoff, "You can try. I'll kill you as soon as a leaf is missing, let alone eating a fruit." "Master, I was just kidding. Don't take it seriously. Don't take it seriously." The Patriarch jolted and smiled apologetically. Immediately, Yi Qin did not bother with it. He walked to the tree and studied the black fruit from top to bottom. A few days passed. There were no changes at all. Yi Qin could not help but frown. The green liquid in the immortal drift bottle had been used up. He would have to wait until the middle of the next month to produce more. Without the green liquid, he could not speed up the ripening process at all. Yi Qin suddenly lifted his head to look at the Patriarch of Hell next to him as he thought to this point. "I have a question for you." "Go ahead, Master. I'll definitely tell you everything I know." The Patriarch of Hell wagged his tail in a flattering manner. Yi Qin coughed dryly and said, What do you usually do?" The Patriarch's hair stood on end. The Patriarch's hair stood on end. He retreated a few steps back and looked at Yi Qin with his guard up. "You can't do that to me. I won't do it even if I die." According to the habits of ordinary dogs, when they needed to pee or poop, their owners would take them outside for a walk. However, the Patriarch was different. The elder ancestor used to be a human, so he might as well be killed if he was asked to raise his legs and defecate and pee in front of everyone like a dog. Therefore, every time the elder ancestor needed to relieve himself, he would sneak out. As for where he did it, no one knew. I'm just asking. Don't be so agitated. Yi Chen could not help but rub his nose in disappointment after sensing the patriarch's strong determination. The dog that the patriarch was currently possessing was no longer an ordinary dog. The feces of ordinary animals could be used to fertilize crops. If the patriarch's feces were used, would it be? After studying the tree for a while, he realized that there was still nothing to be gained. Yi Chen could only give up. He got the butler, Ah Fu, to take care of it and returned home with the patriarch. In the end, he found that both his parents were at home, and his daughter, Meng Meng, was secretly hiding in the room, looking very mysterious. Yi Chen said while smiling, "Dad, Mom, why aren't you guys at work today?" Yi Hai and Wu Lan had changed jobs. One of them was a secretary in the town hall, while the other was in charge of taking care of the retired bosses in the nursing home. The two old men were confused about that. They thought their luck had changed and they were lucky. However, Yi Chen knew very well that it must have been the Gu family's help. Putting aside the town hall, the nursing home alone was a place where many people would do anything to get into. Yi Hai looked at the room that the little girl was in and said in between tears and laughter, "Your mom and I are taking the day off today. We want to spend the day with you." "Spend the day with me?" Yi Chen was stunned and walked to the little girl's room in deep thought. "Meng Meng, what are you being so secretive about? Open the door and let me see you." "Don't open the door, Daddy," the little girl said nervously as she peeked her head out from a gap in the door. All right, I won't open the door." Yi Chen shook his head, feeling amused and annoyed at the same time. He activated his divine consciousness to scan the house by instinct. He saw the little girl putting candles on a 3-tiered cake. She would turn her head to look out every now and then, afraid that she would be discovered. A birthday cake? Yi Chen was stunned at first. Then he could not help but laugh. Was it his 30th birthday today? However, he did not show it to satisfy the little girl's mystery. Instead, he pretended to be impatient and said, "Meng Meng, I'm going out if you don't open the door." All right. Daddy, don't go." As expected, the little girl panicked. She smiled slyly after opening the door. "Turn around, Daddy." "Why do I have to turn around, Daddy?" Yi Chen asked, even though he knew the answer. The little girl stomped her feet and began acting like a spoiled child. "Oh, Daddy, just turn around." "I'll ask you to turn around." "All right." Yi Chen smiled and turned around. However, he saw the little girl turn around and return to the house through his divine consciousness. She walked out carefully while shaking while holding the cake in her hands. "All right, Daddy, you can turn around now." Yi Chen secretly chuckled and turned around to look at her. The little girl said excitedly while holding the cake, while blushing, "Happy birthday, Daddy! Is it Daddy's birthday today?" Yi Chen looked surprised. After that, he cooperated and performed the little girl's act. The little girl placed the cake on the table and rolled her eyes at Yi Chen. "Daddy, you're dumb. You have a bad memory. It's your 30th birthday today. I remember it." "Do you really remember it?" Yi Chen looked at his parents next to him and said, "Riley, don't tell me Grandpa and Grandma told you that." "You're naughty, Daddy. I'll remember it in the future." The little girl blushed after being exposed. The little girl ran to Yi Hai and Wu Lan after saying that. Like a female military officer giving out orders, she said, "Grandpa, Grandma, let's wish Daddy a happy birthday. Say it with me. Birthday to you." Yi Hai and Wu Lan were speechless. "Ha, Jubwa died a horrible death." No, your pronunciation isn't correct." The little guy waved his hand and said with a look of disgust, "It's happy. Birthday to yo." Yi Hai and Wu Lan said again, "Ha, Jubwa died a horrible death." The little girl was completely defeated. "Grandpa, Grandma, you guys are so dumb." Yi Chen patted her head angrily. "Your grandpa and grandma barely went to school when they were young. Aren't you making things difficult for them by forcing them to say English?" Yi Hai shook his head helplessly. "Meng Meng, Grandpa is testing you. Do you know how to say coal mine in English?" "I don't." The little girl stuck her tongue out and looked curious. "Grandpa, do you know how to say it?" Yi Hai nodded and said in all seriousness, "Of course. Listen up. This is how you say coal mine in English. It's a big black lump. Yi Chin was speechless. Wu Lan snickered and glared at Yi Hai angrily. The little girl failed to react at the moment. She realized that she had been fooled when she saw Yi Chin and Wu Lan's expression. She stomped her feet. Grandpa, you're a bully. You're bad. I won't talk to you any more. All right, Grandpa is just joking with you. Aren't we celebrating Daddy's birthday? Cut the cake for Daddy, Yi Chin said while smiling. Meng Meng rolled her eyes at him. Daddy is a silly man. You haven't made a wish yet. Yi Chin pressed his palms together while smiling immediately and said, My wish is for my precious daughter, Meng Meng, to grow up healthy. I don't ask you to be outstanding, nor do I ask you to be rich. It's because I can give you these things whenever you want them. Oh, Daddy, you can't say your wish out loud. Otherwise, it won't come true. The little girl looked at Yi Chen as if she was looking at a fool next door. Don't worry. If it doesn't come true, Daddy will think of a way to make it come true. Yi Chen smiled. Daddy's wish is so simple, the little girl mumbled and rushed to cut the cake with excitement written all over her face. The family began eating a piece of cake each. Yi Chen pointed at his face. It's Daddy's birthday today. Aren't you going to give Daddy a reward? The little girl put the cake down. She did not even wipe her mouth and smacked Yi Chen's face. She could not stop giggling when she saw the cake on Yi Chen's face. Daddy is a tabby cat now. Chapter 65. In the afternoon, the weather outside was great. The weather outside was nice. Just when Yi Chen was thinking if he should bring Meng Meng out to play, his phone rang. It was Gu Xiaoguan. Mr. Yi, there's an underground black market opening in the antique town this afternoon. Grandpa asked me to ask if you'd like to join. Yi Chen said. Underground black market? Yes, it's the same as an auction. However, there are more things in the black market. There are many illegal things that are traded there, such as weapons and ancient mummies. Just when Yi Chen was going to reject him, he heard him say, Oh, yeah, Grandpa said that the finale of the black market seems to be a magic tool. Even elder priest Qingyang of the Shenshao sect was shocked. Magic tool. Yi Chen's interest was piqued. He agreed after some hesitation. Sure, I happen to be free today. Sure, I'll get my sister to pick you up. Yi Chen left after informing his parents after hanging up the phone. At the entrance of the Jinyang district, a red Maserati was parked in the middle of the road in an overbearing manner, attracting the attention of many passers-by. Although the car was parked illegally, nobody dared to say anything. The luxury car was secondary. The main thing was that there was a beauty standing next to the luxury car. Anyone would know that a person who could afford such a luxury car came from a wealthy family. Gu Yingying crossed her arms in front of her chest. She was filled with resentment. Her grandpa had asked her to pick that guy up earlier. She could not get over what he did to her last time. Couldn't this guy be gentler when he kicked me? He didn't even apologize to me after that. He's such a straight man. I wonder how he got a girlfriend. Yi Chen was stunned to see her when he arrived. Why are you here? Where's your brother? He's busy, so he asked me to pick you up. Get in. Gu Yingying was furious. She scoffed and got into the car. Yi Chen did not mind this young mistress's weird temper. He smiled and sat behind the Maserati. However, he did not see two ladies standing less than 100 meters away from the Maserati. They were Yi Wen and her mother, Yang Hui. Yang Hui said with her eyes wide open the moment Yi Chen and Gu Yingying got into the car, Wen, isn't that Yi Chen? Is that luxury car picking him up? Who's that woman? I don't know him either. Yi Wen shook her head blankly. She became upset again as she blamed herself for misunderstanding Yi Chen. Yang Hui couldn't accept the reality in front of her. She muttered sarcastically, It's fine that this kid has a mansion, but he even has a luxury car to pick him up. Don't tell me that he's a kept woman. As she spoke, she nodded her head self-righteously. Yes, that must be it. He must have been kept by that woman. Perhaps even that mansion was given to him by that woman. How shameful. He has hands and feet, yet he's willing to be a gigolo. Yiwen, who was standing aside, could not take it any more. She could not help but interrupt. Mom, can you stop talking? My cousin isn't that kind of person. Why do beautiful things become so dirty in your eyes? No wonder Dad sometimes said that you were narrow-minded and short-sighted. My cousin owns a mansion, owns a company, can make magic tools, and even has medical skills. Do I need to say all these things to slap your face? After saying that, she turned around and left. What's with your attitude, kid? I'm not talking about you. Yang Hui grumbled angrily after being stunned for a moment. Over half an hour later, the car arrived at Jiulong Antique City. Yi Chen roughly learned about the situation from the car. It was said that the underground black market would only open at 5 p.m. Although that was the case, there were all sorts of luxury cars parked in the antique city. Porsches and Bentleys were common goods. The most eye-catching ones were the few Lamborghinis and Bugatti Veyrons. After Gu Yingying parked the car, she brought Yi Chen to an antique store called the Precious Treasure Pavilion. The store was huge. There were rows of shelves with many antiques on them, such as calligraphy, porcelain, and so on. At this time, the shop was already crowded with people. Many well-dressed people were pointing at the antiques in the shop and making all kinds of comments. Meanwhile, there was a young lady in a blue uniform standing next to each of them. They were the apprentices of the antique store who were called out by the boss to serve the customers. As soon as Yi Chen walked in, a pretty lady welcomed him. Welcome, young mistress. Where's Uncle Su? Gu Yingying nodded calmly and could not stop looking through the crowd. Master Su is taking inventory in the storeroom. Please wait for a moment. I'll get him now. He'll definitely be happy to know that you're here. The pretty lady smiled and turned around to walk to the back. Gu Yingying seemed to have noticed Yi Chen's doubt, so she explained, This store belongs to my third uncle. Uncle Su has been working for him for a long time. He's in charge of managing this store. I've been here a couple of times, so they know me. Yi Chen came to a realization and lifted his eyes to look at the items in the store. He thought he would find something, but he was disappointed wherever he looked. Gu Yingying noticed that and said while frowning, Is there nothing that you're interested in? It's all a bunch of vulgar stuff. Boring. Yi Chen could not help but shake his head. The antiques in the store might be rare to ordinary people, but they were worthless to him. Young man, don't you think you're being too arrogant? A furious voice came from the back. Subsequently, an old man in a gray robe and reading glasses walked out. The old man was serious, and he exuded an experienced and smart aura. The moment he appeared, all the customers in the restaurant were instantly energized, and they all bowed to greet him. Master Su. The old man merely nodded coldly and walked to Gu Yingying. He forced a gentle smile on his stiff face. Young mistress, why didn't you tell me that you're coming? I could have been mentally prepared. Uncle Su, please don't tease me. Gu Yingying said while smiling, I'm just here with a friend. She glanced at Yi Chen and introduced, Uncle Su, this is Mr. Yi. He's my friend. Uncle Su only looked at Yi Chen then. The smile on his face was gone as he said in a neutral tone, Little brother, you seem to be looking down on the items in my store. As third master Gu's confidant, Uncle Su was confident that he did not have to respect anyone. The reason being, be it the people from the legal or underground world, they would have to go through him if they wanted to talk to third master Gu. Meanwhile, the entire antique store fell into silence at that moment. Everyone looked at Yi Chen by instinct. They seemed to want to know where he got the courage to say that earlier. Gu Yingying frowned. Just when she was going to stand up for Yi Chen, she heard Uncle Su's words. Chapter 66. As his voice fell, the crowd burst into an uproar, thinking that they had misheard. One must know that the Precious Treasure Pavilion was Third Master Gu's business. Anything that caught Third Master Gu's attention was in the shop, and any one of them was worth millions. If one didn't have at least 10 million yuan, one wouldn't dare to come here. The threshold was terrifyingly high. However, Yi-Chin called him a pile of trash? Uncle Su's expression immediately turned cold. Young man, you have to be responsible for your own words. What do you mean by the things in my shop are a pile of trash? All of a sudden, there was a smell of gunpowder in the air. Many people's hearts skipped a beat. It seemed that Grandpa Su was angry. Master Su was not someone to be trifled with. Not only did he have Third Master Gu as his support, but his methods were not to be underestimated too. Otherwise, he would not have managed such a huge, precious treasure pavilion so well. Gu Yingying frowned slightly. She had no idea how to smooth things over. She was a little annoyed at Yi-Chen for being too arrogant. Yi-Chen did not seem to notice that. He said calmly, "I'm telling the truth." Grandpa Su was so angry that he laughed. A fist-sized box appeared in his hand. After opening it, he pointed at the item inside and said, "This is a fortune-seeking talisman, and it's the first edition." Rumor had it that during the Three Kingdoms period, before Chao conquered Eastern Wu, he had set up 18 tomb raiding commandants to rob tombs and collect military resources. Each of them was given a tomb raiding talisman, and the tomb raiding talisman in my hand was one of the 18. Third Master Gu had spent a lot of money to buy it from a family in Xuchang. His voice fell. An old man dressed like an old professor exclaimed, "Master Su, are you sure this is the first golden groping talisman? If it's true, then it's a cultural relic from the Three Kingdoms period. It's of great archaeological value. Since Master Su said it's true, it must be true. Don't forget that Third Master Gu was the one who took the treasure raiding talisman. Why don't you think about it? Would Third Master Gu be interested in ordinary items? Master Su, I wonder if you're willing to part with this treasure? I'm willing to pay 5 million. Everyone's eyes lit up as they stared at the talisman in Grandpa Su's hand. Uncle Su ignored them. Instead, he looked at Yi-Chen by instinct, trying to figure out something from his face. However, Yi-Chen remained unmoved. He couldn't help but feel a little annoyed. He then walked to a row of wooden shelves and pointed to a white stone the size of an egg on the 5th row. This is a relic of an eminent monk from overseas. Before his death, the eminent monk did not eat or drink for a month. He ordered his disciples to seal himself in the altar in advance, and then he was enshrined in the temple, enjoying the sound of sutras day and night. 100 years passed. Due to the outbreak of war, an army raided the temple and accidentally knocked over the jar. They found the senior monk sitting on the altar with a ruddy complexion as if he had just died. After someone carried the body of the eminent monk out, they discovered that there were a total of 108 sarairas at his feet, and the one in my shop is the biggest of them all. Uncle Su spoke confidently as if he was showing off, causing countless people to inhale. Usually it was taboo to talk about religion, especially things like sarairas. They would usually be asked to take it back. However, not only did Uncle Su get it, but he even put in the shop openly. Someone nodded and said, "I've heard about this too. I think it's from India." The eminent monk was posthumously conferred the title of Bodhisattva by the Indian royal family after his death. It's said that after the eminent monk passed away, the sarairas that were produced have the power of the eminent monk when he was alive. They can eliminate disasters and solve problems. Yi-Chen could not help but shake his head. How could they boast about the stone of an ordinary monk like it was a treasure? When he was still in the cultivation world, there were Buddhist almighties who wanted to enlighten him. In the end, he killed countless people, including arhats and bodhisattvas. Meanwhile, the things in their bodies were the real sarairas. They contained great power. However, Yi-Chen did not even bother to look at them. He fed them to his pets casually. Uncle Su saw him, shaking his head immediately. His expression was getting colder as killing intent flashed faintly in his eyes. "I'd like to know where you get your confidence from. How dare you look down on these things that I'm introducing?" The people looked at Yi-Chen in an unfriendly manner. The things that they treated as treasures were trash to Yi Chen. Was that not a slap to their faces? Gu Yingying scoffed upon seeing that. Let's see how you're going to calm everyone down now. Yi Chen said coldly, so what? Apart from showing off and doing some research on these things, they're just worldly things after all. Treasures are treasures. They're no longer treasures once they're stained with money. How arrogant. I wonder what kind of things are considered treasures. Uncle Su could not stop scoffing. Now he was almost certain that Yi Chen was messing around on purpose. The reason why he was still holding back was because of Gu Yingying. Yi Chen smiled and said, to me, only things that contain spiritual energy are considered treasures. For example, the Taoist talismans. A 5-thunder talisman can command the 9 heavens' divine thunder. Another example would be a flying sword. With a single thought, one can control the sword and fly 10,000 kilometers away. His voice fell. Everyone immediately laughed and looked at him as if he was an idiot. They began to wonder if he was crazy. What are you thinking about? Gu Yingying blushed because of what he said. She glared at him angrily. There's no such thing as you in reality. It's unrealistic. Just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. That's why I said that everything in this shop is trash. It's simply unsightly. Yi Chen smiled calmly. Uncle Su flew into a rage and was about to explode. The old professor from before interrupted. Grandpa Su, since this little brother's eyes are so sharp, why don't you show him the treasure of the shop? As soon as he said this, everyone immediately responded to his question. That's right, Grandpa Su. I've always heard that you have a treasure of the shop that you've been hiding for close to 10 years. We've never seen it before. Why don't you show it to us today and show it to someone? The group of people began talking, saying that they wanted to see the treasure of the shop. Even Gu Yingying's interest was piqued. Uncle Su, we have a treasure of the shop? How come I've never heard of it? Uncle Su was a little hesitant. However, he said after taking a deep breath after seeing Yi Chen's nonchalant expression, Sure, I'll show you the treasure of the shop today. Let's see what you have to say. After saying that, he returned to the storeroom alone. He took the key and returned to the warehouse alone, not allowing anyone to follow him. Soon he walked back with something wrapped in a black cloth. He looked serious. The item was roughly the size of pot lid, and it was wrapped tightly in the black cloth. Grandpa Su, is this the treasure of the shop? Someone asked in disbelief. Uncle Su nodded and lifted the cloth. A bronze mirror was revealed to everyone. It was the size of a pot lid, and it was in the shape of a pancake. There was a lot of bronze on it. Gu Yingying walked over curiously to take a look. She was a little disappointed. Uncle Su, isn't this just an ordinary ancient mirror? How can it be the treasure of the shop? Don't tell me that Emperor Qin used it before. What she said was what everyone was thinking about. Miss, put your face to the front of the mirror and try again. Uncle Su smiled mysteriously. Gu Yingying hesitated for a moment, but she still moved her face closer. In the next second, then, something strange happened. She could not stop shaking while holding the bronze mirror with both of her hands. Fear filled her pretty face as if she had seen something terrifying. Uncle Su snatched the bronze mirror away immediately. Gu Yingying's body went limp, but Yi Chen held her quickly. Ghost! There's a ghost in the mirror. Gu Yingying's face was extremely pale when she finally snapped back to her senses. Fear filled her eyes when she looked at the bronze mirror again. Uncle Su was not surprised by her series of reactions at all. He shook his head and said, Miss, do you know why I treat it as the treasure of the shop but never show it to anyone? Ever since he got the bronze mirror, he realized that whenever he looked at the mirror, he would see a headless female corpse sitting in front of the dressing table. She was combing her hair with a head in her hand. As he looked at it, the female corpse would turn 180 degrees with her head in her hands. She would then smile cruelly at him and walk toward him one step after another. It was very real. It was as if it was happening right before his eyes. He thought it was an illusion, so he secretly got someone to experiment with it. He found out that the result was the same, but the image that everyone saw was different. Since then, he had put the bronze mirror away and never showed it to anyone. Everyone was confused. Someone could not help but ask, "Grandpa Sue, can I see it too?" Uncle Sue nodded. The person walked over and mimicked what Gu Ying did earlier. He peed his pants in fear and lay on the ground, screaming that there was a ghost. It was the same for a few people. Chapter 67. Everyone could not help but look at Yi Qin. They were gloating, especially the few people who had embarrassed themselves earlier. They were eager for him to agree to it. Uncle Sue looked at Yi Qin with mockery in his eyes. "What, you don't dare to? Don't tell me you're scared? Brat, weren't you arrogant earlier? It's just an illusion. It's nothing," Yi Qin said coldly, and walked straight to the bronze mirror. Gu Ying moved her lips and reminded him out of kindness, "Be careful. That mirror is really strange." Yi Qin chuckled softly and pointed the mirror at himself. He stared right into it. The people present looked at each other one after another. They could not stop smiling, as if they could see Yi Qin peeing his pants out of fear. Uncle Sue laughed out loud too. The reason being nobody could resist the image in the bronze mirror. Nobody. Gu Ying hesitated for a moment. She was secretly prepared to get the bronze mirror as soon as she realized that Yi Qin could not do it. Although she did not like Yi Qin, the Gu family was indebted to him no matter what. However, a minute had passed, but Yi Qin stood still. There was no reaction at all. The people's eyes froze because the longest among them did not last more than 30 seconds. The smile on Uncle Sue's face froze. He was secretly shocked. He had experimented with tens of people before, but nobody could last more than a minute without a change in their expression. Is this brat forcing himself? Yes, that must be it. I don't believe that you can last forever. One must know that the illusion in the bronze mirror is more terrifying as it goes on. A minute had passed. 2 minutes had passed. Yi Qin was still fine. Uncle Sue's eyelids twitched. Someone could not help but be shocked. Why isn't there any reaction? Could it be that the bronze mirror is broken? How are you fine? Uncle Sue took the bronze mirror and looked at Yi Qin in shock. Yi Qin said coldly, "It's just a little illusion. Why would anything happen to me?" Uncle Sue shook his head. He could not accept it. He looked at the front of the bronze mirror. In less than a minute, there was cold sweat on his forehead. He took a few steps back immediately to get rid of the illusion. As it turned out, the bronze mirror was not damaged. At that moment, everyone looked at Yi Qin in a different light. If Yi Qin was just a boastful brat to them earlier, he had become much more mysterious now. After Uncle Sue calmed himself down, he asked with a complicated expression, "What do you think of my copper mirror? Can it be considered a treasure?" "You call this a treasure?" Yi Qin shook his head, his disdain obvious. Gu Ying was shocked. "That doesn't count. I think this bronze mirror is quite magical. At first glance, I thought it was just an ordinary mirror, but I can see illusions from it." "Oh, really?" Yi Qin raised his brows and took the bronze mirror from Uncle Sue's hand. He lifted his hand and wiped the mirror's surface. Subsequently, he looked at the people and said, "Try and see if you can see the illusion again." Everyone shook their heads, subconsciously. Uncle Sue suppressed his anger and looked into the mirror. This time, other than his own face, there was nothing else. The illusion that he had seen before was gone. How did that happen? Uncle Sue exclaimed. Yi Qin had only wiped the mirror softly, and the illusion was gone just like that? Gu Ying mustered her courage and tried again. She did not look any better. She looked at Yi Qin in disbelief with her beautiful eyes wide open. Yi Qin did not answer her question. "I'm afraid this bronze mirror has a shady background." "What do you mean?" Uncle Sue's expression changed slightly, and his tone was a little unnatural. "If I'm not mistaken, this bronze mirror should be a burial item. Moreover, the owner of the tomb was a lady who died unjustly. Her resentment lingered in her body for a long time, and as time went by, the resentment turned into malevolent energy. Yi Qin said coldly, "Unfortunately, as a burial item, the bronze mirror was tainted with malevolent energy. Anyone who's alive will be affected by the malevolent energy when they look at the mirror's surface. Then, they'll see the so-called illusion." As soon as he was done speaking, everyone took a step back by instinct. Everyone instinctively took a step back, and their eyes were filled with fear when they looked at the copper mirror again. A dark artifact. Gu Yingying's pretty face changed. She looked at Uncle Su next to her by instinct and could not help but ask, "Uncle Su, did you really dig this bronze mirror out of the tomb?" Uncle Su took a good look at Yi Qin and subsequently put the bronze mirror down. He walked to him and bowed hard. "Please forgive me for not recognizing you, Master. Don't worry about it." Yi Qin nodded lightly. Uncle Su sighed as the people stared at him. "Master Yi, you're right. I got this bronze mirror from a bunch of grave robbers. I was young back then, and I didn't believe in ghosts or gods, so I took it." Everyone's expression changed upon hearing that. Grave diggers were tomb robbers, and they specialized in digging up graves. The people present were all upright people, and they knew some of the rules of the underground world. They would not accept artifacts that had just been unearthed, because those things were very evil. Yi Qin said wryly, "I guess none of those grave robbers had a good ending." Uncle Su inhaled sharply. There was shock in his eyes when he looked at Yi Qin again. He felt like he had no secrets to hide from Yi Qin, despite being a man who was almost 60 years old. He nodded and smiled bitterly. "The second day after I accepted the bronze mirror, I realized that something was wrong. Later, I asked around and found out that the group of grave robbers died tragically the day after the transaction. It was said that they dug up the tomb of a Ming Dynasty princess. After that, I covered the bronze mirror with a black cloth and didn't dare to show it to others." The people could not help but exclaim after hearing that. They could not believe that there was such a strange story behind the bronze mirror. Most importantly, Yi Qin pointed out the key with a glance when he had no idea what was going on. Gu Yingying looked at Yi Qin immediately. Disbelief filled her beautiful eyes as she thought to herself, "This guy is like an old monster. He surprises me again and again." A middle-aged man who was dressed rather luxuriously walked out. He clasped his fists at Yi Qin in all seriousness and said, "We've slighted you earlier. Please forgive us, Master." "It's nothing. Don't mention it." Yi Qin smiled calmly. His demeanor that was neither servile nor overbearing, as well as indifference, influenced the people again. Someone could not help but exclaim, as expected of a master, "We can't compare to his bearing alone." "If I may ask, Master, what I don't understand is that we could see the illusion in the bronze mirror earlier. Why can't we see it now?" the old professor asked humbly. His question was what was on everyone's mind. "It's simple. It's because I've dissolved the demonic energy on the bronze mirror. Without the interference of the demonic energy, the bronze mirror naturally turned into a normal mirror." Yi Qin smiled and said, "Boss Su, I've destroyed the treasure of your shop. You won't blame me for that, will you? Fortunately, you've been covering the bronze mirror with a black cloth all these years. Otherwise, you'd end up like those grave robbers. I wouldn't dare to do that. I'd like to thank Master Yi for solving the problem that has plagued me for years." Uncle Su shook his head immediately and said in relief, "How is this a treasure? It's clearly a ferocious item. If it weren't for Master Yi, it would have harmed others and itself." After that, nobody dared to look down on Yi Qin anymore. They gave him their name cards and left their contact information. They took the initiative to befriend Yi Qin. Subsequently, Uncle Su dragged Yi Qin to look at the items in his shop passionately. However, none of them caught Yi Qin's attention. At that moment, Gu Yingying walked to him after receiving a call. She said softly, "Mr. Yi, my third uncle is in some trouble. Do you want to take a look with me?" Chapter 68. Yi Chen nodded and walked directly to the biggest building in the antique town after following her out of the precious treasure pavilion. The building was 9 stories tall and occupied over 500 square meters. It was decorated in a retro style, looking like a mansion from the Republic of China. It was made of red bricks and green tiles. It was grand. Meanwhile, there were tens of luxury cars parked below. There were more than 10 ladies in revealing outfits standing at the door. Each of them was the best of the best. Yi Chen could not help but secretly exclaim, there might be many people coming to greet the guests alone. One could tell that the owner of the building was not an ordinary businessman. Gu Yingying had a cold expression on her face. She seemed to have a natural enmity towards these scantily dressed women. After giving her order coldly, a lady brought them into the building and took the elevator up to the 5th floor. Yi Chen heard noises coming from the room next door as soon as they got out of the elevator. A hall that was over 200 square meters came into view. It was crowded at the moment. There were many cutting machines and abandoned raw stones around. The bunch of people gathered together and stared deadly at the center of the circle. They would scream every now and then. Gu Yingying frowned and looked for Third Master Gu in the crowd. Subsequently, she walked to a hunky man and said, "Brother Zhang, where's my third uncle?" "He's inside." The man called Brother Zhang pouted at the crowd and forced a smile. "Third Master is gambling with someone inside. He lost 150 million yuan in less than half an hour. It's going to increase." "Green! Green!" No one knew who shouted, but everyone else followed suit and cried out in surprise. "Sai, it's collapsing." Someone was extremely disappointed. A hysterical laughter came subsequently. "Ha ha ha! Third Master Gu, you're useless now. You've lost another 10 million yuan. Together with what you owe earlier, you've lost a total of 65 million yuan. Lu, stop being so smug. It's just 10 million yuan. I won't even blink," an angry voice replied. Gu Yingying pushed the crowd away with Yi Chen angrily. They saw 2 middle-aged men in branded clothes standing in the middle. They had completely different expressions on their faces. One of the men with thick brows and big eyes was delighted to see Gu Yingying. "Little girl, you're finally here. Third uncle, why did you gamble with someone again? Why did you lose so much?" Gu Yingying looked upset. He glanced at the man in front of him and sneered. "Who asked your third uncle to run into that bastard, Lu Chuang? I don't like him the moment I see him. So I want to ruthlessly crush his arrogance. Girl, did you bring money? Lend me 50 million first. I'll return it to you later." Yi Chen looked at him. His face was fair, and he had no facial hair. His eyes were lifeless, and his hair was messy. He looked like he had been staying at the internet cafe for 3 days and 3 nights. This was old Gu's son, Third Master Gu? He could not help but feel a little disappointed. "Third uncle, do you think I'm an ATM? Where can I get 50 million from?" Gu Yingying rolled her eyes and said angrily. Lu Chuang, who looked like a dragon and a tiger, sneered and said, "Gu Lao-san borrowing money from the younger generation. I feel ashamed for you. If you need money, just tell me. Of course, the premise is that you give up the business in the south. You with the surname Lu. Stop plotting against me in the dark. Fight me if you're so capable." Third Master Gu was enraged. At that moment, an old man in a brocade robe stood out and said while smiling, all right. Both of you are famous people in Tianan. Why are you scolding each other like shrews as soon as you see each other?" The duo shut their mouths as soon as he said that because the old man was the manager of this building. Third Master Gu scoffed and turned his head to look at Gu Yingying. "Little girl, quick, lend me 10 million yuan. I'll return it to you later. I don't believe that I'll be controlled by that Lu guy today." "Third uncle." Gu Yingying stomped her foot and said, "Let me introduce someone to you." "It won't be too late to introduce him to me after you lend me the money." Third Master Gu was focused on gambling, so he did not notice Yi Chen, who was standing aside. Gu Yingying was speechless. She could only take out her bank card. "There's 20 million in here. I'll only lend you 10 million. Before he was done speaking, Third Master, Gu, took the bank card from him. Gu Yingying could not help but hold her forehead. She glanced at Yi Chen apologetically and introduced him to Third Master Gu. "Third uncle, this is Master Yi. He's the one that Grandpa told you about earlier." Third Master Gu nodded at Yi Chen and said in a carefree manner, "Master, you watch for a while. We'll have a few drinks after I defeat that Lu fella." Yi Chen nodded while smiling. He thought to himself that Third Master Gu had inherited Old Master Gu's straightforward and hot-tempered personality. "Third Master Gu, I can't believe that you guys hired a master. Since he's a master, why don't you get him to gamble for you? You might be able to turn the tables around." Lu Chuang, who was standing aside, took a good look at Yi Chen and smirked in disdain. There was really no one in the Gu family. He could not believe that he was calling a young brat a master. "Lu, if you want to gamble, just do it. Stop nagging me." Third Master Gu glared at him coldly. He had no impression of Yi Chen. He had only heard his old master mention that Yi Chen knew how to refine medicinal pills and martial arts. He was not interested in those at all. After all, he, Third Master Gu, was famous for being a scammer. He had given up all the resources to join the army and become an official. All he knew was to mess around. Yi Chen frowned. The two of them really wanted to hurl abuse in the street. "Luo Bata," chattered nonstop like little bees. Gu Yingying seemed to have noticed his doubt, so she introduced him immediately. It turned out that Lu Chuang was from Xiangnan, which was separated from Qian'an by a river. Lu Chuang's ancestors were pirates who made their fortune by smuggling. When it was passed down to his generation, he even started a transportation company and made his smuggling business flourish. Meanwhile, Third Master Gu had also started an international trading company. One could say that the ships from both parties had to pass through this river. As the saying went, 2 tigers couldn't live in one mountain, and 2 dragons couldn't live in one river. Naturally, both parties did not like each other. Nobody knew how many times they had fought because of that. Meanwhile, the old man in the brocade robe was called Hong Jindo. He was the person in charge of this building and had a high position in the antique city. Even Lu Chuang and Third Master Gu had to respect him. Yi Chen came to a realization. No wonder the duo looked like they were enemies in their past lives. Every word they said was filled with hostility. Seeing that the duo was going to fight again, Hong Jindo frowned. "All right, both of you. There are so many people watching. Do you still want to gamble?" "Why not? Speaking of which, Boss Hong, is there something wrong with the materials here? I've spent up to 100 million, but I've never heard the sound of water." Third Master Gu scoffed angrily. Hong Jindo said in between tears and laughter, "Are you doubting me? I'll be honest with you. All of the materials here are from the old jade pit in Myanmar. I, Hong, can definitely guarantee the authenticity of the source. As for whether you guys can get jade or not, it'll depend on your luck." Gu Yingying explained to Yi Chen again. In the stone gambling industry, the cave that produced the raw stones was called a pit, while the raw stones that were mined were called raw stones or goods. Meanwhile, the raw stones before them were priced from 5 million to 10 million. If they were lucky enough to get jade or green from the raw stones, it would mean that the price had increased. Naturally, the price would be compared with the cost of the raw stones. For example, using a raw stone that was worth 1,000 yuan to get jade that was worth 100,000 yuan, it would be a profit. Otherwise, it would be a loss. Also, the step of dissecting the raw stones was very important. It was usually done by an experienced master with a cutting machine. If they were lucky enough to get jade, but the jade was damaged due to their poor cutting skills, the price of the jade would naturally be greatly reduced. As the saying went, one cut would make you poor, one cut would make you rich, one cut would make you heaven, and one cut would make you hell. All of this was because there was no instrument that could check the internal structure of the raw stones under modern technology. Therefore, the stone gambling industry was born. One could say that it depended entirely on one's character. Many people became rich overnight, while many people lost everything and broke up with their families. Yi Chen nodded. Subsequently, he saw 4 muscular hunks walking out while carrying a basket. They seemed to be strenuous. Subsequently, they took out all sorts of stones of different sizes. The smallest was the size of an egg, while the biggest was approximately the size of a basketball. Lu Chuang looked at Third Master Gu. Same old rule. We'll pick a raw stone each, and the winner will be decided based on the green color we get. 10 million for each round. Sure, I'll pick first this time. Third Master Gu said while clenching his teeth. He only had 10 million left. If he were to lose this round, he would lose his dignity completely. Chapter 69. Yi Chen's voice was neither loud nor soft, but everyone could hear him. Not a single word was missed. Everyone was stunned at first. Then they couldn't help but burst into laughter, as if they had heard something funny. Who's this kid? He's so young, but he sure has guts. I can't believe he dared to get involved in the battle between 5th Master Lu and 3rd Master Gu. Newborn calves aren't afraid of tigers. Didn't he think that if the stone he picked for 3rd Master collapsed, 3rd Master would skin him alive? 2 big shots are fighting. Why is a brat like you interrupting? His voice fell. Gu Inying, who was standing aside, pulled Yi Chen back immediately and said while forcing a smile, Mr. Yu. In reality, she wanted to say, you don't even know this, so why are you meddling in other people's business? However, she was afraid that she would anger Yi Chen. On the other hand, Lu Chuang's face twitched. He grinned fearlessly while looking at Yi Chen. Gu Lao-san, did you hear that? Even the master you invited can't stand it anymore and wants to take action. Hurry up and agree to it. He could not wait for 3rd Master Gu to agree to it, so that he could mock 3rd Master Gu later on. His extremely arrogant attitude made Yi Chen frown. There was a ferocious gleam in his eyes. Even Hong Jindo, who was standing at the side, secretly shook his head. What did a young man know? The one with the surname Liu. Don't you King provoke me. I'll bet with you right now. I don't need help from outsiders. 3rd Master Gu's expression changed. He turned his head and said to Yi Chen coldly, Mr. Yi, I can do it myself. There's no need for you to worry. He was infuriated. He did not even call Yi Chen Master Yi anymore. Instead, he called him Mr. Yi. This was a matter between him and Lu Chuang. The reason why both of them were flushed with anger was none other than for the sake of face. In their position, reputation was more important than anything else. However, now that Yi Chen stood up and said that he was going to help him, was that not a slap to his face in front of everyone? Even if you have medical skills and martial arts, so what? This is stone gambling. Medical skills are useless. 3rd Master Gu pointed directly at a raw stone that was the size of an adult's head on the ground, after saying that, I'll choose this. Lu Chuang smiled and chose a raw stone the size of a basketball. Yi Chen smiled lightly and did not care. He retreated to Gu Inying's side and watched everything expressionlessly. Gu Inying was worried that he would be mad, so she softened her tone and said, Mr. Yi, if you want to play, I can lend you some money. She thought Yi Chen was itching for a fight after watching Lu Chuang and 3rd Uncle's intense gambling. Your 3rd uncle has lost this round, Yi Chen said coldly while raising his brows. Ah. Gu Inying was slightly stunned and said by instinct, no way. They haven't even started to cut the stone. How can the winner be decided already? Yi Chen smiled without saying anything, because when he entered the door, he found that his divine sense could penetrate the inner space of the raw stone, and he could tell at a glance whether there was any green inside. Meanwhile, the raw stone that 3rd Master Gu picked had no green at all. On the other hand, the one that Lu Chuang picked had green the size of an egg. Gu Inying frowned, slightly seeing that he did not say anything. She could only suppress her doubts and look at the stone-cutting scene. After Lu Chuang and 3rd Master Gu picked their raw stones, respectively, a staff wearing gloves brought the stone-cutting machine over. Which one of you wants to go first? Hong Jindo looked at Lu Chuang and Third Master Gu while smiling. He said out of habit, I'll say the same thing again. Our company will accept any of you who cuts out jade. Let Lu go first. If he doesn't cut out any green, it means that I've won, Third Master Gu scoffed. Lu Chuang glanced at him in disdain and subsequently said to the stone-cutting master, Wipe it before you. Continue. The stone-cutting master nodded to show that he understood. Yi Qin secretly nodded. Judging from that alone, Lu Chuang was much calmer than Third Master Gu. Using his divine consciousness, he found out that there was a green the size of an egg in the middle of his raw stone. If he were to cut it open from the middle, the jade would be useless. The stone-cutting master poured some water on the cutting machine. As the machine spun, the people at the scene took a step forward by instinct. They stared at everything with their eyes wide open. They did not want to miss any details. Third Master Gu clenched his fists that were behind his back. There was sweat oozing out of his palms faintly. The stone-cutting master was experienced. He followed Lu Chuang's request and wiped it before grinding it. Soon, half of the raw stone was cut open. Gee, it's green! It's green! Someone with sharp eyes shrieked in surprise. As expected, the green on the raw stone was exposed to the air. As the stone-cutting master proceeded to cut it, a jade the size of an egg was completely exposed. The jade was close to dark green and had a seductive luster. Congratulations, Fifth Master. You've got a jade the size of a thumb ring. Many people congratulated him. Someone said, Fifth Master, are you selling this jade? I'm willing to pay 500,000 yuan. CK off. Do I need your money? Lu Chuang glared at him angrily. He could not hide the smugness on his face, no matter what. Ha ha ha. Third Master Gu, you've lost again. Lu, it's too early for you to be happy. I haven't cut my stone yet. It's too early to say who's going to win now. Third Master Gu's face was extremely grim. Clearly, he did not expect Lu Chuang to pick a random stone to have a green in it. The stone-cutting master asked carefully, Third Master, how do you plan to cut it? You dumb *SS. I'll just cut it open from the middle, Third Master Gu said with a grim expression. In reality, he had given up hope. The stone-cutting master nodded again and began to cut the stone with the machine. When the entire raw stone was cut open, they realized that there was nothing in it. The people could not help but sigh. Gu Yingying's heart skipped a beat. Master, Yi had guessed it right. How was that possible? She looked at Yi Qin immediately. Excitement filled her beautiful eyes. Master Yi, how did you know that my third uncle would lose? Make a guess. Yi Qin smiled mysteriously. There was no surprise on his face at all. Lu Chuang laughed out loud. Third Master Gu, you've lost again. That's a total of 75 million yuan. Settle the bill now. He looked at Yi Qin after saying that. He frowned and said after noticing that Yi Qin looked calm, What? This master doesn't seem to care about me. Do you want to play with me? The people could not help but look at Yi Qin with mockery in their eyes. Fortunately, he did not pick the stone for Third Master Gu earlier. Otherwise, he would look even worse now. You want to play with me? Are you sure? Yi Qin was stunned at first. Then he said wryly. Little did he know that his expression pissed Lu Chuang off. He said in his deep voice, Do you think that I, Fifth Master Lu, am afraid of you? I'm just afraid that you don't have the capital to play with me. Of course, you can borrow some money from Third Master Gu. Slap. Chapter 70. As soon as he said that, the entire place fell silent. Everyone was stunned as they looked at Yi Qin in disbelief. Everyone in the know knew that Fifth Master Lu was just mocking him. However, he turned the tables on Fifth Master Lu. He even said something like gambling with money or life. Even Third Master Gu and Gu Yingying were stunned. They were clearly shocked by Yi Qin's action. It seems like our Master Yi is extraordinary indeed. Lu Chuang's expression was uncertain. He then said after a scoff, Sure, I'll play with you. Yi Chen lit a cigarette on his own. As the smoke lingered in the air, he said coldly, "There's 100 million in this card. If you're gambling, I'll bet 50 million each round. Of course, you can bet your life if you want." The crowd gasped as soon as he said that. The crowd was in an uproar. Disbelief filled their eyes when they looked at Yi Chen. Never had they thought that he would go so far. One must know that even a boss like Third Master Gu would only pay 10 million yuan per round. After all, 10 million yuan per round would be 100 million yuan per round. However, Yi Chen increased the price by 5 times as soon as he spoke. How could they not be shocked? Third Master Gu took a good look at Yi Chen. At that moment, he realized that he could not understand Yi Chen anymore. However, Yi Chen's courage alone made him look at him in a different light. Surprise flashed through Hong Jindo's face. He was betting so much. Was he rich, or did he have something to rely on? What do you think? Yi Chen ignored the people's expression and looked at Lu Chuang coldly. Lu Chuang's cheeks twitched, and he said with a fake smile, "Sure, 50 million each." "Brat, I have no idea where you got the courage to bet with me, but I've never been afraid of anyone. If you lose and don't have that much money, even Third Master Gu won't be able to save you. Master Yi." Gu Yingying could not help but speak. She really wanted to talk Yi Chen out of it. Yi Chen said coldly, "Don't worry about it." Hong Jindo coughed and said, "So, who's going to pick the raw stones first?" "I don't care." Yi Chen shrugged. Countless people secretly exclaimed. Putting aside whether Yi Chen was faking it or not, his bearing alone was much more powerful than Third Master Gu. "All right, I'll go first." Lu Chuang smiled sinisterly. Then he walked to the pile of raw stones and began to choose. Finally, he pointed at the largest stone and said, "I'll choose this one." He turned his head to look at Yi Chen and said while smiling, "Master, it's your turn. Watch carefully. Gu Lao-san is waiting for you to avenge him." He emphasized the word master. Anyone with a discerning eye could tell that he was disdainful toward Yi Chen. Yi Chen smiled lightly and took 2 steps forward to the pile of raw stones. He picked a stone the size of an adult's palm without even thinking about it. The crowd could not help but shake their heads. He had thought that he was someone who knew the ropes, but it seemed that he was just a guy who knew nothing. After all, the stone that Lu Chuang had chosen was too big. If both of them had green at the same time, naturally the bigger stone would have more green, and it would be easier to cut. Lu Chuang sneered. He was definitely going to win this round. Yi Chen glanced at the price tag of 800 yuan on the raw stone. He turned his head to look at Gu Yingying after realizing that he did not bring any cash with him. "Can you lend me 1,000 yuan?" The crowd was speechless as soon as he was done speaking. They almost fell onto the ground. Subsequently, they laughed out loud at the same time. What a joke! He's just a dumbass. Gu Yingying was stunned. Meanwhile, Third Master Gu, who was standing aside, turned pale. The good impression that he had for Yi Chen that he finally had vanished completely. Before Gu Yingying could speak, Lu Chuang scoffed. 1,000 yuan, am I right? I'll give you 5,000 yuan directly. Take the rest as my charity to you. I hope that you'll get jade. He took out 5,000 yuan and tossed it onto the ground as he was speaking. Don't worry, I'll return it to you. Yi Chen did not pick it up. Instead, he said to Hong Jindo, "Boss Hong, deduct 800 yuan from it. Please give the rest to Boss Lu." Hong Jindo forced a smile. Subsequently, the staff placed both of their raw stones before the cutting machine. At that moment, Yi Chen's raw stone was a stark contrast to Lu Chuang's. Before the stone cutter could speak, Lu Chuang said to him immediately, "Just like before, polish it first." A while later, the stone cutter said while wiping his sweat, "I'm sorry, Fifth Master. It's collapsed." Lu Chuang waved in disapproval and said to Yi Chen with a wry smile, "You're quite lucky." The people shook their heads by instinct. Since even Fifth Master Lu's had collapsed, Yi Chen's tiny stone would not be any better. "Little brother, How do you want to cut it? The stone cutter asked listlessly. Clearly, even he did not have high hopes. Yi Chin picked up a piece of chalk from the ground and drew a circle on the raw stone. He then said to the stone cutter, "Follow my mark. Polish it first before polishing it." The people could not help but scoff upon seeing how serious he looked. Lu Chuang even chuckled out loud. The stone cutter nodded impatiently and proceeded to dissect the stone. Lu Chuang did not even look at it and walked directly to Third Master Gu. "Third Master Gu, shouldn't you give me the card now? There's 10 million in here. Take it first. I'll get the finance department to transfer the remaining 65 million to you when I get back." Third Master Gu tossed the bank card to him and turned around to walk to the door with Gu Yingying. Meanwhile, he did not care about Yi Chin anymore. Gu Yingying stopped walking and looked at the crowd. She said, while frowning, "Third uncle, Master Yi is still inside. Let's wait for him." "What kind of *T master is that? Let's go. Let's go. I can't afford to embarrass myself like this," Third Master Gu said angrily, and was about to leave with a grim expression. Suddenly, a scream came from the crowd. "It's green! It's green! It's ice red jade!" At that moment, the driver, Xiaozhang, ran over in excitement. He stammered to Third Master Gu, "It's green! It's green! Third Master is green!" "Damn it! Explain yourself. What do you mean I'm green?" Third Master Gu slapped him. Those who did not know would think that his wife had made him green. Xiaozhang paused and said, "Third Master, there's green in Master Ye's raw stone. On top of that, it's ice red jade." "What?" Third Master Gu exclaimed and turned around to rush into the crowd immediately. He saw the stone cutting master lift the saw blade and said in disbelief, "Red jade? It's really ice red jade." Meanwhile, there was a red stone the size of a duck egg in his hand. It was blood red, as if he had been injected with chicken blood. The color was monotonous. There were no other colors at all. "It's really ice red jade. He can tell from such a small stone. Isn't he too lucky? It seems like this little brother is really capable. This red jade alone can at least make a bracelet. The rest can at least be carved into a few pendants. He got it for 800 yuan. He's rich now. Why would he want a bracelet? He might as well make a bead curtain. If I'm not mistaken, it'll cost more than 5 million yuan." The people chimed in one after another. They were shocked. They had been here many times, but they had never seen anyone get an ice red jade. "Ha ha ha! Lu, are you an idiot now?" Third Master Gu could not help but laugh out loud as if he was the one who got it. Lu Chuang looked terrible, as if he had eaten **T. Never had he thought that a stupid stone would have an extremely rare ice red jade. At that moment, Yi Chun borrowed 10,000 yuan from Gu Yingying. He walked to Lu Chuang one step after another and threw 10,000 yuan at his face directly. Chapter 71. Slap. The sound of the 10,000 yuan hitting Lu Chuang's face was unusually loud. It was followed by hundreds of notes flying everywhere. At that moment, the lounge was terrifyingly quiet. Everyone held their breath and dared not make a sound, as if the temperature in the room had dropped. Who was Lu Chuang? He was a dragon in Tianan, real dragon that crossed the river. However, not only did Yi Chin dare to win his money, but he even humiliated him with it. Was Yi Chin courting death? "Brat, how dare you make fun of me?" Lu Chuang's expression was extremely grim. He glared deadly at Yi Chin as killing intent rose in him. At the same time, the 5 hunks in sunglasses who were standing behind him took a step forward at the same time. They looked menacing. Yi Chin smiled calmly and lit a cigarette on his own as he sat down. He said without even lifting his head, "Those who humiliate others will be humiliated by others." "Lu, are you trying to stir up trouble?" Third Master Gu slammed the table hard and stood next to Yi Chin immediately. Many people stood behind him as soon as he was done speaking. There were also quite a number of people who stood behind him. The two groups of people were at each other's throats, and the atmosphere was very heavy. Hong Jindo said in his deep voice, "What do you think this place is? A wet market? Do it outside if you want to fight. Otherwise, don't blame me for turning my back on you." "Great, very great." Lu Chuang looked at Yi Chen in a creepy manner for a while. He only laughed out of rage. "You're the first person who dares to do this to me. Great, do you dare to do it again? I'll bet a finger with you." The people gasped as soon as he said that. They could not help but feel a chill rising within them. It seemed like Yi Chen had offended Third Master Gu. Hong Jindo looked serious. He glanced at Yi Chen secretly and secretly shook his head. Things were getting out of hand. "Lu, are you out of your mind? A finger? Why don't you bet your head?" Third Master Gu cursed out of rage. He subsequently looked at Yi Chen and said, "Master Yi, this Lu guy is a lunatic. Let's ignore him. Let's go. I'll bring you to drink and get two beauties to have some fun." "That's right, Master Yi. Basically, you'll lose 9 out of 10 times in stone gambling. There's no need to break your finger just because of a moment of anger." Gu Yingying nodded immediately. However, Yi Chen lifted his head and replied coldly, "Sure, it's not my finger that was chopped off anyway." Everyone was stunned when they heard that. They looked at Yi Chen in disbelief. He really agreed? Was he crazy? "What do you mean it's not yours? Are you so confident that you can win?" Seeing that Third Master Gu was going to persuade him again, Lu Chuang beat him to it and smirked. "It's great that you dare. Let's hand the fate of our fingers to these stones. Old Hong will be our witness." Hong Jindo smiled bitterly. Since things had come to this, he could only nod. "Since you guys want to play it so big, then I'll be a witness. I'll say the ugly words first. Whoever loses can only blame it on their bad luck." He glanced at Lu Chuang and Yi Chen at the end of a sentence. "Do the two of you have any objections?" "What opinion can I have? I, Lu Chuang, have been in this world since I was 16. I won't frown even if my head falls off, let alone a finger." Lu Chuang glared at Yi Chen coldly as he spoke to this point. "I'm just worried that this brat will go back on his word since Third Master Gu is here." Bullsh *T. Third Master Gu cursed on the spot. "Don't worry. If Master Yi loses, I definitely won't help him go back on his word. At most, I'll send him to the hospital myself and fix his finger." "Third Uncle," Gu Yingying, who was standing aside, could not help but say. She looked nervous. Hong Jindo nodded. "Since that's the case, let's begin. Who's going to pick first?" Lu Chuang wanted to say that he would go first, but he changed his mind when he was about to say it. Let this brat go first. It would be a lie to say that he was not nervous at all now that things had come to this. "What do you think, Master Yi?" Hong Jindo could not help but look at Yi Chen. "I don't mind." Yi Chen smiled calmly and walked straight to the pile of raw stones. He picked a stone that was the size of a watermelon. Lu Chuang scoffed and picked one that was the size of a goose egg. The people were speechless. Lu Chuang thought that since the small stone earlier had an ice-type red jade, there would be more small ones. Following Hong Jindo's suggestion, the duo placed the raw stones that they had picked before the two stone-cutting machines to cut them together. As the stone-cutting machine spun, everyone stared deadly at the two raw stones. Everyone at the scene stared at the two raw gemstones without blinking. Even Lu Chuang, Hong Jindo, and Third Master Gu were no exception. Yi Chen, on the other hand, stood with his arms behind his back. He looked normal. Soon, someone shouted, "There's jade! There's jade!" as the stone-cutting master cut opened the raw stone completely. A glowing green jade that was as thick as an adult's arm was revealed to the people. Lu Chuang staggered and felt like the world was spinning. There was indeed jade, but it came from the raw stone that Yi Chen had picked. Meanwhile, the one that he had picked had collapsed. No matter how shrewd he was, he could not hide the shock on his face at that moment. "Oh my God, it's imperial green. It's imperial glass. I've never seen imperial green in my life. It's definitely imperial glass. Look at the color. It's pure imperial green. This trip is worth it. It's really worth it. Even Hong Jindo could not remain calm now. He could not help but feel his mouth go dry. It's really imperial green. The stone-cutting master's hands were shaking. He had cut countless stones in his life, but it was his first time cutting out imperial green. He could not help but blush as he thought to this point. Third Master, Gu, pushed the stone-cutting master away and picked up the imperial green. He began studying it carefully and could not stop exclaiming. Gu Yingying covered her red lips with her hand immediately. She looked at Yi Chen with disbelief filling her beautiful eyes. Yi Chen smiled and said nothing. Impossible. Lu Chuang shouted all of a sudden. How can it be imperial green? You guys must be mistaken. You must be mistaken. Until now, he dared not believe it, because if it was real, it would mean that one of his fingers was gone. Bullsh *T. I swear with my head that it's definitely the real imperial green. Third Master Gu was enraged. Apart from being shocked, the people thought it was a little unbelievable. They looked at Hong Jindo, who was standing aside by instinct. They seemed to be waiting for him to make a decision. After Hong Jindo lifted his hand to signal the people to be quiet, he fell into silence and waved a staff over. He whispered into the staff's ear. The staff nodded and walked out of the lobby immediately. Soon, he brought an old man with white hair. Hong Jindo went to him immediately and said while smiling, Old Chin, I have a big treasure for you to identify today. That's why I've disturbed you. I'm sorry. At the end of his sentence, he cleared his throat, pointed at the old man, and introduced. Everyone, let me introduce you. This is Old Chin, who has been in Macau and Hong Kong for more than 10 years. He has identified no less than 5 cases of imperial green jade. In order to verify whether the imperial green jade that Grandmaster Yi opened is real or fake, I can only ask him to come out. Someone took 2 steps forward in excitement as soon as he was done speaking. Old Chin, I can't believe it's really you. I've seen you in Macau and Hong Kong back then. It's been so many years, but you're still so energetic. Cut the crap. I'm not that pretentious. Where's the imperial green that you're talking about? Old Chun waved angrily, looking cold. Third Master Gu passed the imperial green to him immediately. Old Chen put on a pair of reading glasses and took out a magnifying glass to examine the jade carefully. Lu Chuang was nervous. There were 10,000 voices in his head, hoping that it was not the imperial green. It was as if he would win if it was not the imperial green. The people stared at Old Chin without blinking. Suddenly, Old Chin cried. He hugged the jade and cried tears of joy. It's real, it's real. It's the Emperor of Jade, the imperial glass type. I can't believe that I'll be able to see it again in my life. Buzz. Lu Chuang felt like his scalp was going to explode. He squeezed out of the crowd and ran out when the people were not paying attention. He's running away. Third Master Gu shouted immediately. Yi Chen, who had his guard up against him, smirked and chased after him. Stop that brat. I'll give the person who stops him 10 million yuan. Lu Chuang said in shock. His 5 bodyguards charged at Yi Chen at the same time upon hearing that. Scram! Yi Chen shouted. As a loud thud came, the 5 of them were thrown out. Lu Chuang was shocked to see that when he turned his head. Before he could think too much, he felt his vision blur. Subsequently, Yi Chen grabbed him by the neck and lifted him into the air. No, I can give you as much money as you want. Lu Chuang screamed with all the strength he had. He was no longer the man he was before. However, he felt a sharp pain coming from his right finger all of a sudden before he was done speaking. Blood splashed in the air. Subsequently, Yi Chen's cold voice came into his ears. Chapter 72. It was a series of quick movements. When the people snapped back to their senses, they saw Lu Chuang's bodyguard groaning on the ground. Lu Chuang himself was lifted midair by Yi Chen single-handedly. He shrieked in devastation like a little chick. Meanwhile, there was a bloody finger on the ground. At that moment, the entire place fell into dead silence. Many of them inhaled sharply and were shocked after rubbing their eyes. What did they just see? Fifth Master Lu, the man who dared to challenge Third Master Gu, was being choked by Yi Qin single-handedly at the moment. He could not fight back at all. Shock, absolute shock. The most shocked person was none other than Third Master Gu. He looked at everything blankly and subsequently turned his head to look at Zhang, who next to him. Can you do that? He knew Lu Chuang's underlings very well. They were all retired Special Forces soldiers who cultivated ancient martial arts. Their abilities were at least on illuminating energy, but they were no match for Yi Qin. I can't. Zhang, who forced a smile while suppressing the shock within him. Although he was a Shaolin monk disciple, it was difficult for him to fight 2 of them, let alone 5 of them. Most importantly, he was the first one who saw Yi Qin attack among everyone present. However, he did not see Yi Qin's movements from the moment he attacked until now. Third Master Gu fell into silence. Hong Jindo's pupils shrunk. His hands that were behind his back began shaking. He could not believe that the Gu family knew such a person. Gu Yingying was the only one who seemed relatively calm. If one were to look closer, one would notice that there was a mocking smirk at the corner of her lips. Lu Chuang, oh Lu Chuang, you're known as the man who crossed the river. However, they have no idea that Mr. Yi is the real dragon, the dragon of destiny. To him, you're the local tyrant at most. At that moment, the boxing stadium was silent. Nobody dared to speak. All of them were shocked by Yi Qin as they looked at him blankly. Yi Qin squinted slightly while looking at Lu Chuang, who he lifted into the air. He said expressionlessly, "Are you convinced now?" "And Master Yi, I am convinced. I'm convinced." Lu Chuang's face was flushing. He could not even speak properly. At that moment, he truly realized that Yi Qin was not an ordinary person. It was no wonder that the Gu family regarded him as a master. The consequences would be unimaginable if he said no to Yi Qin. Yi Qin tossed him onto the ground as if he was tossing a dead dog. His extremely cold voice echoed through the entire hall. "From today onwards, I don't want to see you ever again. Go back to your Xiangnan. If you dare to step into Qiannan again, I will personally go to Xiangnan with my sword and dye the sky with blood. With me in Qiannan, I will kill you no matter how far I am." His voice wasn't loud nor was it soft, but it could be heard even if it landed on the ground, and it once again shocked everyone to the point that their minds rumbled incessantly. "Yes, yes, yes. I swear that as long as Master Yi is in Qiannan, I, Lu Laowu, will never take half a step into Qiannan." Lu Chuang's face was pale as he forcefully endured the intense pain and nodded. "If you look closely, you will find a puddle of water on the ground," Yi Qin said coldly. "Leave the money you lost and get lost." Lu Chuang felt like he had been pardoned. He tossed a bank card and left quickly with the help of the 5 bodyguards. He did not even bother to pick up his fingers, as he was afraid that Yi Qin would regret his decision. At the same time, the people at the scene looked at Yi Qin with deep respect in their eyes. Apart from the fact that Master Yi had gotten an ice-type jade in 1 round and 150 million yuan from 5th Master Lu, he agreed to bet his fingers without batting an eyelid under 5th Master Lu's provocation and got an imperial glass jade again. Lu Chuang went back on his words and wanted to run, but he was scared out of his wits by Master Yi. He said, "I'll break your finger. Come again if you're not convinced." He said, "Are you convinced?" He said, "Go back to Xiangnan." Not only did 5th Master Lu wet his pants in fear, but he even promised that he would never step into Qiannan again. What was called overbearing? That was overbearing. Master Yi himself was overbearing. What was a king? Master Yi was the king in their eyes. The funny thing was that they had mocked Master Yi earlier. Those who had mocked Yi Qin earlier held their heads down as they thought to this point. They could not help but feel nervous, as they were afraid that Yi Chen would take revenge on them. At that moment, old Chen mumbled impatiently, "Hey, do you guys still want this imperial glass jade? I'm taking it away if you don't." "Yes, how can we not want it?" Yi Chen could not help but laugh. As he laughed, the entire audience laughed as well, and the previously serious atmosphere lightened up quite a bit. Hong Jindo walked to Yi Chen respectfully after he snapped back to his senses. He said, while smiling, "Master Yi, can you sell this imperial green to me? I'll pay 70 million yuan." He was going to use it as the treasure of the store. It would be considered as a slap to the customers who said that the raw stones in his store were fake. "Boss Hong, you must be a man. It's such a big imperial green, and you're only offering 70 million yuan? Third Master Gu, who was standing aside, was upset. Hong Jindo clenched his teeth. 80 million yuan. I can't go any higher than that. Yi Chen nodded. Hong Jindo could not help but get the finance department to transfer the money to his account. After everything was done, Gu Yingying looked at the time and realized that it was almost 5 p.m. She said immediately, "Master Yi, the auction is starting soon. Should we go?" Yi Chen nodded. After leaving the building, Third Master Gu stopped walking. He looked at Yi Chen in all seriousness and said, "Master Yi, thank you for helping me regain my dignity." Just when Yi Chen was going to speak, he noticed a bunch of people walking over. The leader was a middle-aged man with a square face who looked majestic without being angry. Meanwhile, there was a sage-like Taoist priest in a yellow robe standing next to him. He was approximately 50 years old, serious, and had an extraordinary aura. The man would turn his head to talk to the old Taoist priest every now and then as he walked. He seemed to be very respectful in his words and actions. "I can't believe they're here." Gu Yingying's pretty face changed. She seemed to be paying attention to them. Yi Chen glanced at them coldly. He had his eyes on the old Taoist priest for a few seconds. Gu Yingying seemed to have noticed his doubt, so she said with an extremely serious expression, "Master Yi, the person walking at the front is Wei Dong. He's from Rock City. Rock City is more developed than Lin City, and it has the biggest territory. Meanwhile, Wei Dong is the #1 boss in Rock City. He's more famous and has a higher position than my third uncle." Third Master Gu looked awkward upon hearing that. He moved his lips, but said nothing. Gu Yingying was right. Lin City's Third Master Gu, Rock City's Wei Dong, Xiangnan's Lu Chuang, and the Medicine King's Sun Jianyan were famous people in the entire Tianan. However, Wei Dong was the most powerful among them. It was said that he came from a family in Beijing. As they were speaking, Wei Dong seemed to have noticed Yi Chen and the rest. He walked over immediately and said while walking, "Third Master Gu, why are you the only one here today? Where's the old master?" He had his eyes on Third Master Gu the entire time. He did not even look at Yi Chen, Xiaozhang, and the rest. "Can I be here?" Third Master Gu scoffed and did not give him a friendly look. In the entire Gu family, only old Master Gu could suppress Wei Dong. However, the old master was getting old, so he had lost the will to fight. Wei Dong was not mad. Instead, he looked at the Taoist priest next to him and said while smiling, "Let me introduce you guys. This is Elder Priest Qingyang." "What, Elder Priest Qingyang?" Third Master Gu exclaimed by instinct. He looked at the Taoist priest next to Wei Dong in shock. Elder Priest Qingyang nodded indifferently. Gu Yingying whispered into Yi Chen's ear, "Master Yi, Elder Priest Qingyang is a true expert. He's from the Shenshao sect, and he knows how to draw talismans. It's said that the talismans he draws can not only expel evil and cure diseases, but they can also communicate with ghosts and gods." Hearing this, Yi Chen could not help but glance at Elder Priest Qingyang again. He thought to himself, he knows how to draw talismans too. Could he be a cultivator too? Sensing his gaze, Elder Priest Qingyang frowned and immediately revealed a look of displeasure. Wei Dong noticed that. He then looked at Yi Chen and his smile turned cold. "Who's this?" "This is Master Yi." Third Master Gu smiled proudly as if he had someone to rely on. Wei Dong was shocked. Him? Grandmaster Yi? Was there no one left in the Gu family? How could they call a young man master? In the entire Tianan, only Taoist priest Qingyang beside him was worthy of being called a master. Hearing the word master. Chapter 73. Although elder priest Qingyang did not mention any names, everyone present understood what he meant. Clearly he was targeting Yi Qin. Third Master Gu's expression changed. Just when he was going to speak, elder priest Qingyang smirked in disdain and left with his arms behind his back. He was extremely arrogant. Wei Dongwen caught up immediately. However, there was disdain in his eyes when he looked at Yi Qin. He must be treating Yi Qin as a quack. Wei Dongwen secretly shook his head as he thought to this point. Old Master Gu had a great reputation. How did he have such a useless son like Third Master Gu? Yi Qin, on the other hand, looked the same since the beginning. He squinted as he watched elder priest Qingyang leave quietly. Gu Yingying was worried that he would be upset, so she said by instinct, "Master Yi, elder priest Qingyang has always been like this. I hope that you won't mind." "Did you say that this elder priest Qingyang knows how to draw talismans?" Yi Qin asked in deep thought after looking away. He did not sense any spiritual power wave from elder priest Qingyang, so he should not be a cultivator. Then, how could the talismans he drew be effective? Third Master Gu took over the conversation and said, "Elder priest Qingyang does know how to draw talismans. He's famous in the entire Tiannan's upper class. He's someone that the rich and powerful want to be friends with. I heard that he healed a blind man's eyes by burning a talisman in front of everyone. Is that so? I hope that I'll have the chance to meet him." Yi Qin smiled and said nothing more. He walked into the underground black market's auction hall under Gu Yingying's lead. According to Third Master Chu, there were a total of 6 floors underground in the antique town. The top 3 floors were the parking lot, while the bottom 3 floors were the black market that everyone was talking about. They took the elevator to the 4th floor. The so-called black market was actually a hall that was similar to a movie theater. It was oval in shape with densely packed seats all around. Meanwhile, the auction area was right in the middle. The entire hall was divided into 3 floors. Gu Yingying brought Yi Qin directly to the 3rd floor. There was a private room of the same standard on the 3rd floor. They could see everything that was going on in the auction hall from above. The private room was well equipped with everything that one needed. As soon as they sat down, Third Master Gu got someone to bring them some food. He even brought 2 bottles of red wine and poured them 3 glasses each. Gu Yingying got up and picked up a glass. She said to Yi Qin while looking at him, "Come, Master Yi, let me toast to you. Not for anything else, but for avenging my 3rd uncle today." Yi Qin took the glass and clinked it with her. Surprise flashed through his eyes as Gu Yingying finished half a glass of red wine in one go. Perhaps it was because she couldn't handle the alcohol, but after drinking, her pretty face was flushed red, and her eyelashes trembled slightly. Under the dim yellow light, she looked a little stunning. "Go ahead, Master Yi." Gu Yingying's pretty face was getting redder as if she noticed his gaze. Yi Qin took a small sip and felt like there was a ball of fire going deep into his throat. The texture is not bad, right? This is an 82 lafite from a chateau in enamel. Third Master Gu took a sip too. He changed the topic and asked, "Master Yi, I don't understand. How did you know that you'd definitely get jade when you were gambling on stones?" His voice fell. Gu Yingying could not help but look at Yi Qin. What happened earlier was just too shocking. First, he got a red jade. Then he got an imperial jade. Yi Qin was calm from the beginning until the end. He did not have the mentality of a gambler at all. Most importantly, Yi Qin could predict that third uncle would lose in the last round of the bet between him and Lu Chuang. Could it be that he had foresight? Yi Qin said calmly to the duo's confused gaze, Would you guys believe me if I told you that I have X-ray vision? The smile on Third Master Gu's face froze. Master Yi, you sure know how to joke. There was no such thing as X-ray vision in this world. He assumed that Yi Chen was unwilling to tell him, so he did not ask further. Gu Yingying did not believe it either. Just when she wanted to ask more questions, she suddenly heard a clanking sound coming from downstairs. The auction has begun, Third Master Gu said immediately. Yi Chen lifted his head and looked down. He saw that the seats on the first floor were filled with people. Meanwhile, there was a fatty standing on the stage in the middle of all the seats. The fatty weighed approximately 100 kilograms. He was wearing a suit that did not match his physique at all. His hair was slicked back, and he had a harmless expression on his face. Master Yi, this is Jean Defu. His nickname is Big Teeth Jean. He's considered one of the people in charge of the auction. Everyone who knows him calls him Master Jean. Yi Chen nodded and proceeded to look down. With the appearance of Big Teeth Jean, the originally noisy auction venue instantly quietened down. Big Teeth Jean went straight to the topic after giving a brief opening. The first auction item is 10 jars of white jade wine that was produced in the Han Dynasty. Subsequently, a few staff in uniforms carried a big box onto the stage. There was a red cloth covering it. This was the tribute that Tubo offered to the emperor of the Han Dynasty back then. As the saying goes, fine grape wine in a luminous cup, the pipa urges you to drink it. Due to the special sealing technique, this wine has never been damaged or deteriorated even after 2,000 years. To prove what he said, Big Teeth Jean got his staff to remove the red cloth and open a jar of wine in front of everyone. There was a milky white gel inside. At that moment, the entire auction hall was filled with the fragrance of the wine. It was refreshing to smell it. One could tell how precious it was from the fragrance alone. Big Teeth Jean did not waste any time. He said, while smirking, the auction for these 10 jars of wine will officially begin. The starting price is 1 million yuan. Each increment must be no less than 100,000 yuan. Someone raised the paddle in his hand as soon as he was done speaking. 1 million yuan. 2 million yuan. 3 million yuan. Eventually, the 10 jars of white jade wine were sold to an old man in traditional attire at the price of 2 million yuan. Yi Chen could not help but secretly shake his head when he saw the excitement on the man's face. He thought to himself that a person's hobby was indeed a magical power. He was willing to spend over 2 million yuan for merely 10 jars of ancient wine. Following that, Big Teeth auctioned off many more items, from antiques to calligraphy and paintings, which were all sold at sky-high prices. To Yi Chen's disappointment, none of the items caught his eye. Just when he was bored out of his wits, Big Teeth Jean got someone to take out another auction item. It was a sandalwood box about 50 centimeters in size. At the same time, 2 people were sitting in another private room. It was Wei Dong and Elder Priest Qingyang. As soon as the sandalwood box appeared, Elder Priest Qingyang, who had been indifferent, suddenly stood up from the sofa and said excitedly, "That's it, that's it. Director Wei, you have to get it for me."